Yes, people. Yes, people. Black Ice TV in the house once again. Here with another live conversation for the people. Them, you see the logo. You know what time it is. We got the panel show UK USA link up. We got an array of brothers today. Um, kind of improving the subject matter. Uh, but generally speaking, we're going to be dealing with something that we tried to kind of kickstart off before when we wanted to do the debate with our brother Sarah, Garvey, Callum, and ISUPK, which was about the Abrahamic faiths and how beneficial are they for Black people in general. So I think that's the level of the conversation. But before we get into that, first of all, I want to just run through the panel and let everybody just introduce themselves. We'll start off with our brother Soul of Mine because this is partly his brainchild as well, I gotta say, for this discussion group and for the debates that he's also been doing um, on his channel. If anyone who didn't see his last debate that he did was Bashir and Gorilla Hebrew, weren't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yes. Again, introduce yourself, brother, to the people as they start to come in and let them know a bit about what you do, what's your channel, what's good.
Um, Peace family. I go by the name of Solar Mind. I'm actually still setting up, so I wanted to actually show my face. But yeah, I go by the name of Solar Mind, and I got a debate league that I started. Is on Solar Vision ITBM2. In fact, we got Brother Kansu. We set up a debate with him with Brother Kentron, and it's going to be dealing with African spirituality or Islam, and that'll be next Monday. So tune into that. That's Solar Vision ICBM2. But yeah, I organize a debate league, and I have Gorilla Hebrew, Imam Bashir, a host of individuals that you probably already be familiar with. And the goal is to just kind of exchange ideas from people from different faiths, all Black men, respectfully. So I'm interested in this discussion. We have Brother Cy Ryan here, want to make this connection. In fact, we want to kind of make a connection where we're doing this pretty much on a weekly basis. I want to get the opinions from a lot of guys over in London, and we can kind of build from there. So appreciate it.
No doubt, no doubt. Brother Konsu, introduce yourself to the people, let them know who you are and what you do.
No doubt, man, no doubt. Peace to everybody out there. Peace and power. Of course, it's your one and only Konsu Sheshmu Moon, member of Team Osiris, think tank dedicated to teaching and educating on the solutions found in science. Also, we're part of the Black Flag movement to disambiguate and stop the spread of spurious information in the Black conscious community. Anti, what it's called, pseudoism. And also, I've been an independent business owner, financial consultant, and real estate investor for the last 10 years, and been helping families for a really long time. And I just happen to enjoy history, science, philosophy, theology, and things of the sort.
All right, all right. Next in line, the one and only. Introduce yourself, brother Sarah.
Yo, peace, family, peace. Brother Sarah Garvey. What can I say about myself? I don't do too well with these things. I'm the guy who debated Imam Bashir a couple of months ago. I think I put him into retirement, if I'm honest. And also the guy that, what's his name? Captain Crunch Tazariak, sorry, ran away from, who was supposed to debate myself and Callum. ISUBK were running like cowards. So I guess when it comes to the US, I'm the one that they fear. That's what I'm saying.
All right. Next in line, Moorish brother, introduce yourself.
Peace. It's your brother Tyvon Swain, aka the Orthodox Moor. And the UK family might remember me from a channel I used to have a few months ago called SLM TV. I've also been on Titans TV. Y'all might know me as the Moorish brother or Moorish Dawa and whatnot. I've also recently debated Imam Bashir, and he ain't going into retirement, bro, but he should, for real. Y'all might remember some videos I had where I was debating from America or going at some Muslims on Speaker's Corner and whatnot, and some of their perspectives when I'm trying to correct them on how unscientific their methods were, and I'm trying to represent an Islam that's science-based. I'm also in the debate league with Brother Soleimani and Brother Kansu. Looking forward to the conversation, family.
All right. And next in line, someone who I personally invited to the show to wet their beak in the discussion and panel show realm. Introduce yourself, my brother. Let the people know who you are.
Peace, and good evening to you all. Yeah, my name is Ras Klonobi. Klonobi is a Ghanaian dialect. Yeah, I'm a Ghanaian, by the way, but born, and just a regular guy who's interested in knowing about history, mainly the origins of the three Abrahamic religions. So, yeah, for the past 10 years, sort of just been studying history, European history, you know, because it has got a lot to do with them, the creation of all the three Abrahamic religions. So been studying that, been hearing other people as well's views on all on the same subject, watched a few videos and all that. So you can call me as an amateur historian, really, but you know, very interested in that. So, like our host said, I'm just here to hear other people's views because I believe the subject is about how these three savage, barbaric, occult, heathen religions are good for the African. So I'm just here to hear what they have to say because I believe some of them are Christians, Muslims, and Hebrews on the panel today. No, anyway, so I'm just a guest. So I'm going to ask a few questions and make a few statements as well. Using factual history, not the traditional that's been told, the mythology and all that. Just using factual human history to ask certain questions and just to know where these people stand, like if their foundation is strong enough, to be deemed a good religion for Africans to subscribe to. So just wanted to know a few things. So yeah, the name is Ras Klonobi. That's in my dialect, but if you were to translate that into English, it's Ras Krobo Kid. Yeah, I'm the kid from Krobo land. Yeah, a lot of people might not know about that because we're quite small, but we're mighty. All right.
That's what I like to hear. All right, people. Yeah, I want to thank everybody so far for tuning in. I want to thank the usual suspects. I'm going to just give a shout out to Sister Sci-Fi holding up the chat for me. Yeah, big up to you every time, baby love.
Hey, peace to the panel. Peace to Solomon.
Everyone knows the routine. Like, share, subscribe, share out the link. Get everyone in. Now, as we said, we're going to be dealing with various subject matters, but one that's been kind of lingering since we tried to do the debate with ISUPK was, are Abrahamic faiths decent for Black people? Do they do anything for us as a whole? And let me add this in there because I know this was a bone of contention last time. If we don't have the Abrahamic faiths, what are we replacing that with? Yeah, what could we subscribe to?
Yo, you still there?
Can you hear Rich? I can't.
I can't hear Rich. No.
I can't hear him yet. No.
Okay. So we're still live. So Rich dropped out.
Okay, yeah, that's what happened. Okay.
So let's just kick it off real quick. So I think I'm the only person here who represents any kind of Abrahamic tradition. I'm a Moorish American Muslim of Maghrebi descent. And right off the top, I think we all can agree on one thing, yeah? That all these Abrahamic traditions, most people are going to say they're ripped off from Africa or something like that, right? But I think we can all agree on one thing. If any tradition, any religion, any philosophy practiced from a colonialist mindset is dangerous for African people. And any tradition they're practicing is only going to be good for us if the tradition leads you back to Africa in some way, shape, or form. Yeah?
Mr. Moore.
Yes, sir.
All right, brother. Kick us off, because again, we was talking about it also in the back chat. I don't know what's going on with Solomon. We'll be back in a sec.
Yo, Rich, your mic's really low, bro.
My mic. Okay,
Yeah.
let me turn it up and make sure everybody can hear me. If there is any problems in the chat room, people, with you guys hearing us while we're doing
babe, you're pretty choppy too. You may want to go back out and come back in.
Oh, look, it's all sorts of technicals. All right, well, look, kick off the conversation, my Moorish brother, with your premise, and then I will adjust the volumes from here.
Big. So my premise is this. So as a Moorish American Muslim, we canonize Garveyism. And so Garvey had the concept of one God, one aim, one destiny, right? And he didn't throw away the Abrahamic traditions. He used them in such a way to where he led people back to Africa with them, right? And with that whole concept, that's how I'm saying we should embrace the Abrahamic traditions and whatnot. If people are practicing them from a colonialist mindset, it's going to separate people, and it's going to separate people from Africa all day long, right? And so that's a big problem. Malcolm X had the concept of we should leave our religions at the door, right? And that's fantastic for starting a conversation, right? Starting a conversation of unity and whatnot. But realistically, when we leave that conversation and walk back out that door, some people are going to have a religion that they pick up, and so we better make sure that as a group that they're not practicing that religion from a colonialist mindset, and that whatever religion they practice or moral code, philosophy, whatever leads them back to Africa, right? And I very much appreciate people like Sarah Garvey, right? Because he chops people up on where their traditions separate them from the concepts of Africa, right? And so we need that kind of concept and his perspective in the conversation and dialogue to keep people in check. Because realistically, any religion that you have, right? Understand what I'm saying here, people. Any religion that you have is an anthropomorphizing it's an anthropomorphized story of the universe, right? The truth of the universe. If for the mere fact that it's anthropomorphized, it's going to be less than perfect. And people are going to stray to the left and to the right. And some people are going to take things too literal. Some people are going to take things too figurative. And when we go off, we're going to need people like Sarai, etc., right, to keep us in check, to make sure we're logical about what we're talking about. I'll leave it right there. Anybody want to pick it up?
I'd have to ask you how your paradigm leads you back to Africa. That's something that I'd want to know. How does your paradigm lead you back to Africa?
So first and foremost, as a Moorish American Muslim, we proclaim a nationality that's African based, right? It's an African based Islam. It's an Islam that it venerates Egypt as the capital empire of the Dominion of Africa. It venerates the schools of Egypt. It venerates.
So then, why would you need, if you're going to venerate the schools of Egypt, why do you need the Moorish American title?
Peace. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, because
Yeah, what if you're venerating the schools of Egypt, why do you need the Moorish American tag?
Because that is my nationality.
Your nationality is Moorish American, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what for me, I'm just trying to understand, what is a Moorish American? What is that?
A Moorish American is somebody who descends from the ancient Moroccan Empire is born in America.
A Moroccan Empire in America, did you say?
A Moorish American is someone who descends from the ancient Moroccan Empire and is born in America.
Okay, so would you say, are you saying that the Moorish or the Moorish people in Morocco are linked to Egypt?
Historically, yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course. I'm really trying to understand the paradigm. If I'm honest, I'm really trying to understand the paradigm.
Is there an issue with me calling myself Moorish American for you?
No, it's not an issue. It's just I'm trying to understand why, because you said to me that you venerate Egypt. So I'm just wondering why where did the Moor part come in, and what value does the Moor part bring to your paradigm? What?
Merely just the national side to it, right? Like, so, like your brother, the brother earlier was talking about he was Ghanaian, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying I'm Moorish. That's just
so you can trace your lineage to the Moors, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
How is that done?
Well, so anybody of African American descent, right, who went through the slave trade, can link themselves back to the ancient Berbers. This can be found via legislation. The Negro Act of 1740 in South Carolina denotes the fact that the Negro slaves were taken from the ancient Berber populations and whatnot. But on a whole nother level, on one side of my family, I can directly trace myself back to Moorish lineages.
So is your argument that that enslaved Africans that were brought to the Americas are Moors?
So it's my argument that the fact of the matter is that the enslaved so-called African American population of people who went through the transatlantic slave trade are descendants of the ancient Berbers and have the ability to claim Moorish nationality. They don't have to.
Are you saying all of them? Because there were different parts of Africa that Africans were taken from. So I wouldn't claim that all of them were Berbers. I don't doubt that some of them were, but to say African Americans, I guess in general, on a whole, would be descendants from Moors would be a misnomer, I'm guessing.
That would be a guess and not a fact. So I said ancient Berbers, right? There's a concept of ancient in what we talk about in our literature versus ancient versus modern and whatnot. But again, the fact of the matter is the legislation of America stipulates that the people they were enslaving were in fact ancient Berbers. And so even with the whole with the Moorish paradigm, for instance, a lot of people like to relegate the Moorish paradigm just to Morocco, and that's a misnomer in and of itself because empires have distances that go way farther than just their initial homeland, right? So, for instance, in the Treaty of Peace and Friendship with Morocco, you can see that there was a person called the Prince Amongst Slaves. I believe his name is, I believe it was Suleiman Rahman Ibn Sari, something close to that. I'll have to look it up real quick. But he was a Fulani Muslim, right? From Futa Jalon, I believe, right? In the Senegambia, right? So he was enslaved, and he was also released and sent back to Africa as a Moor, right? Being of Fulani descent, right? Again, the concept, the Moorish concept is an empirical concept. It's not just one nation. The concept of empire encompasses many nations, just like the concept of Rome. There were many different nations of part of the Roman Empire, but Rome was the one overarching construct of the empire.
Okay, I'm still confused. I'm not even gonna lie to you, because history will tell you that Europeans went to West Africa, okay, all over West Africa, okay, to find slaves. But you know, not all of these slaves were either Berber or Moorish or Hebrew, or they were taken from so many different parts of West Africa. So for someone to claim one, I guess, homogenized, oh, I'm a Moor or I'm a X, Y, and Z, you would really have to do some good tracing of lineages to actually claim that.
So again, let's slow this down, right? So I'm saying what's factual, right, is that the American legislation stipulates that the people they enslaved were of ancient Berber descent.
All of them.
I said based upon that.
So all of
people. Hold on, slow down, Speedy. I said based upon that, people have the ability to claim the concept of the Moorish Empire, right? The ancient Moroccan Empire.
You're saying,
hold on, slow down. I also said not everyone has to, right?
So you're saying all legislation claimed that they were taking ancient Berbers. All records from America claim that they were taking ancient Berbers. Is that what you're telling me?
I'm saying you can't find a record of anything other than.
Okay, but you've got common sense though. If you can't find, just because you can't find something, you would have to use your common sense and say, obviously.
So what's the limitation of the ancient Berbers? Where did the Berbers stop? Where do they start? Where do they stop?
Hang on. What I'm trying to say is your common sense would tell you, I'm guessing, that not all of the people taken from the west coast of Africa were ancient Berbers. That would be stupid because we know that the numbers taken from the west coast of Africa numbered in the millions, right? They're numbered in the millions. So for you to claim that, oh, just because there's the only records we can show is that they took Berbers, it doesn't mean like this thing was a 400-year raid on the west coast of Africa. You can't claim that for 400 years only ancient Berbers were taken to America. That would just be silly.
So in order to define what you're talking about, you have to explain to me the limitation of the ancient Berbers real quick then.
What do you mean?
So who do they encompass and who do they not encompass?
What I'm trying to say is I wouldn't know who they encompass.
So then why are you talking to me about what you assuming was silly? Why don't you talk to me what you can prove and what you can't?
Okay, but like I'm trying to. Okay, it's like the Hebrews. Okay, the Hebrews claim that Hebrews were taken from the west coast of Africa.
So far, I've cited legislation, I've cited factual stuff, and you're giving me opinion. What's your facts that you're talking about so far? Because it seems like you're also trying to avoid the religion conversation, right?
No. We can get into that. That's not a problem.
I think we're dealing with the chronological order of things. Yeah, I think we're trying to deal with inclusive, but I don't want us to get hung up on this point. But wrap up what you guys are.
Yeah. Okay.
So here's what I'm saying, right? Like, so I asked you earlier if you have a problem with me being Moorish, and you said no. Yeah.
No, I have no problem with you being Moorish. My I guess my contention.
So my question is, can you prove that I'm not Moorish?
No, I'm not trying to prove that you're not Moorish.
So
you're not understanding. You're not understanding what I'm trying to say. You were talking about the slave trade, and okay, and we all know that the slave trade happened for hundreds of years, right? So, and we know that the west coast of Africa was the main place that the slaves were taken from, and they were taken. Sorry,
I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah. So, but millions were taken. So I'm just trying to guess. I don't know the percentage that were ancient Moors, and I wouldn't know the percentage that were Ghanaian. I wouldn't know the percentage that were Nigerian or from Mali or from anywhere. But my guess would be that they're not all Moorish.
Okay, that's a guess.
Or from the ancient Berbers.
That's a fantastic guess, but can you prove it?
I probably could, but I'd have to go and research right now.
Okay,
and right
so I'm going to talk about what I can prove. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
So this man is Abdul Rahman Ibn Ibrahim Sari, right? So this man, again, was a Fulani man, right? He was He was not of the Moroccan Empire when he left Africa, when he was enslaved. Yeah. Mm-hmm. When he went to the south, his slave master recognized the fact that the slaves were treating him differently, and they were treating him like a prince. Then he found out that the man could speak and read and write Arabic, right? And so he was like, "Oh snap! I better make sure I don't have a Moor on my hands, right?" And so because we recently, as a country, America had recently signed a treaty of peace and friendship with Morocco, right? And recently at the there had been a situation to where people had been enslaving Moors, and Moors had to go back, had to get that dealt with the consulate and whatnot. So when he got in contact with the consulate, he was not a Moor. Let me be straight about that. He was not a Moor. He was he just considered himself Fulani, and he was a prince amongst them, right? But once he spoke with the Moroccan consulate, he recognized he had the chance to go back to Africa as claiming himself as part of the empire. So he did such. He did such, and when he went back, he didn't go back to Morocco. He went to Liberia. He went back to sub-Saharan West Africa.
Okay, so going with that narrative, okay, millions of Africans were taken from the west coast of Africa, and if they were from the Moorish, if they were from the lineage that you claim, then all of them could have done the same thing. They could have been like, well, I'm from the lineage of the ancient Berber Moors, so and so. So can you take me back to Africa, please? But we know that didn't happen. Okay, so you can claim one man, which is fantastic, but
I can claim more than one man. So what I can show you factually is that the people who did so got dealt with under that construct, and the people who just claimed black got dealt with in a whole different format. So again, this happened after or right around the time period of the there's a particular case that's famous in America for saying that a black man has no rights that a so-called white man has to respect, right? This man is treated differently because of status, and because of treaty, and because of how he decided to claim a nationality, right? So I'm saying, like I said earlier, we have the ability to claim such. I'm not saying everyone has to or everyone did. Okay. If you can historically prove otherwise, I'd love to see your facts.
No, it's not that I'm trying to disprove your case. I'm saying your case, that man's case may be very much legitimate, but the point I'm trying to make is we have a 400-year, history here, and one man's story or a few people's story is not the story of all of the Africans that were taken.
More than just this one man's story that I'm talking about.
My friend, you could have 50,000 of them. Okay. However, they were millions.
So the most you're able to do right now is to pontificate on a hypothesis that you're not willing to prove. So can we either identify that you can't disprove what I'm saying, and can we move on to the actual topic, or can we just, you want to keep going on, or what?
You have every right to claim your Moorish American lineage.
I just asked the question.
Too right.
You have every right to claim it. I'm gonna do some more research into that. Because I actually, I've got I've actually got the autobiography of Oluda Equiano, and he was a Nigerian from the. Huh?
Who was that?
Yeah, I've got the autobiography of Oluda Equiano, and he is a man taken from Nigeria, and he wasn't, he didn't claim lineage from the, I don't know, from whatever you're claiming. Right? But he was both a slave in, I say a slave, but he was a servant in Nigeria and was also a slave for the British. So, I'm just saying, my point is, not all people taken from the west coast of Africa can actually claim what you're claiming, because there were so many different peoples taken.
So that's an opinion that you can't substantiate and have not done so as of yet. So whenever you want to, and if you want to do it via formal debate, I got you. We can do it whenever you want to.
Yeah, I could just say, the book or the Life and Times of Oluda Equiano is actually on my bookshelf right now. So
that's fantastic. But his story, that one story, just like this one story, does not prove that everybody is Moorish. It proves everyone can claim it. Your one story does not prove that everyone can't claim Moorish in this story, right? That's the whole point I'm saying, fam. So if you want to belabor a point you can't prove, I'm with you. You just can't prove it. But the family is going to be more edified by us talking about Abrahamic traditions, yeah?
Okay, let's move on.
Quick question. Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Moore, is it the Moorish guy? Yeah. Mr. Moore. Sounds like a 007 thing, innit? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, man.
Yeah. Yeah. You said you're a Moorish American, yeah. Yeah, national, yeah.
I'm Moorish American. I don't say national.
Oh, so you're not a nation, no? Are
If
you a
I
nation?
if I was Ghanaian American, Ghanaian America wouldn't be a nation.
No. Yeah. So what is the Moorish American? Have you got a nation? Is it a sovereign? Is it a sovereign nation?
So again, if I was Ghanaian American, I'd be a Ghanaian citizen.
Right. So
Or
what
a
citizen
Ghanaian
are
American
you?
citizen, right? I'm an American citizen of Moorish descent. Just like if I was Ghanaian American, I'd be an American citizen of Ghanaian descent.
So have you got any sort of connection to Africa at the moment? Have you got like a recognized like geographical physical land that we can just associate Moorish to? It's operating right now in Africa.
No, most ancient empires don't operate on modern landmasses.
So where is it all in the book? Your thing. It's not in the physical like reality.
Like ancient Kemet's not in a modern concept. It's ancient. You got to go look at it on scrolls on the walls of Kemet.
Yeah, we can see it. We can see evidence of that. Yeah.
You can see evidence. You can see evidence of the Moroccan Empire as well.
No.
You can actually see more evidence in a lot of cases.
Yeah, well, the Moorish Empire, you can see a lot of it in Europe, not Africa.
So, do you have a problem with being able to see it anywhere? What's your point?
No, my point is, you're taking your Moorish American ideology, whatever you call it, back to the motherland to present that as what we need to use.
When did I say that? When did I say that?
You're bringing an idea.
So you're making an assumption is what you're doing.
No, I'm not. You said Garvey, didn't you? What did Garvey do? Trying to unite Africa? So you're using the same ideology as Garvey, and you?
Yeah, I said we can. That's Garveyism, right?
Yeah, so that's your main aim. That's the end game, to get the whole of Africa united. But you're taking back the Moorish, Moroccan ancient empire.
So did Garvey tell people? Did Garvey say that we should take the Moorish ancient Moroccan empire to Africa and try to make people be Moorish?
No, Garvey had his own ideologies.
Right. So I'm saying we can't have Garveyism.
I believe Garvey kicked out some Moors from his organization, right?
Oh, well, that's new to me. I didn't know that.
Yeah, me neither. Who would that be?
Let me research that right now.
That's going to be a recurring theme, family.
Yeah, but you say the Moorish descended from the Berbers.
The ancient Berbers, yes, sir.
Yeah, you are the Berbers.
So check this out, Doc. So you're going to try to do this whole same thing. What's your beef? Because first and foremost, you try to put words in my mouth. No. Slow down. First of all, I said that we claim Garveyism, right? Garvey didn't say nothing about this whole Moorish stuff, yeah? So on the one God, one aim, one destiny. That's what I'm under right now. That's what I'm here talking about. I didn't say nothing about. Whoa. I didn't say nothing about making anybody Moorish. I didn't say nothing about making anybody Islamic. None of that.
Garvey, he said one God. What God was Garvey talking about?
Let's read it. How about we read it?
Well, I knew Garvey was a Christian. So was he talking about the Christian God when he said under one God?
Let's see. The Image of God. This is from the Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey, edited by Amy Jacques Garvey, right? If the white man has the idea of a white God, let him worship his God as he desires. If the yellow man's God is of his race, let him worship his God as he sees fit. We as Negroes have found a new ideal. Whilst our God has no color, yet it is human to see everything through one's own spectacles. And since the white people have seen their God through white spectacles, we had only now started out late, though it be, to see our God through our own spectacles. The God of Isaac and the God of Jacob, let him exist for the race that believes in the God of Isaac and the God of Jacob. We Negroes believe in the God of Ethiopia, the everlasting God, God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit, the one God of all ages. This is the one God in whom we believe. We will be we shall worship him through the spectacles of Ethiopia. That's what Garvey said on it.
Well, don't you think that contradicts Islam, what you follow?
In no way, shape, or form.
Are you sure?
I'm 1000% positive. You want to prove some? You want to bring something to the table?
what's the connection between Ethiopia and Islam?
You know what? I would refer you to Kalam's book on it. He wrote a fantastic book on the secret Ethiopian origins of Islam. Go check it out. Beautiful book.
Ethiopia.
Yeah.
Is the origin of Islam. Are you 100% sure on that?
Well, if you read Islamic history, they had like hijras, and they was being persecuted. One of the, I think it's the first hijra, they migrated to Ethiopia for refuge.
So first and foremost, this is a whole nonsense conversation. Let's get into something real.
You're bringing something to the African continent.
No, you're assuming something right off the top. So if you want to get into it, let's get into it. Let's have if you want to beef about the religion, let's get into it. Let's bring it upstairs.
From the Moorish, what's happening?
Let's bring it upstairs. This is too low level. Yeah.
Can I please interject, please?
Yeah. Someone else speak.
Brother Konsu.
Yeah, I mean, I'm listening intently. I mean, this is a good conversation, and the brother respectfully came with primary evidence from Marcus Garvey, but there is a thing called context and inference when we quote primaries from people that are not living anymore. We have to make sure that we stay within context of that person's particular culture, neurological disposition, and vocation, and him being a public speaker and an organizer of a political organization. We have to understand why he delivered that speech and what it was for. So when he talks about the God of Ethiopia, we serve the God of Ethiopia. The primary God is Almach, and Almakah is a deity from the Yemeni kingdom of Saba and the kingdoms of Dimt and Aksum in Eritrea, in northern Ethiopia. So that is considered a moon god. And Garbini and Perini have shown in their research the bull's head and the vine motif associated with him and may have solar and dynastic attributes. So we also go into the sun goddess and also a priest of Ra, which goes into Shamash, Ishtar, and Isis, who also were venerated in Saba. But they were more tutelary as a goddess of the royal Egyptian dynasty. So we have to kind of maintain things in context when we're talking about primary from living people, especially when they were living, the circa and the history that we're talking about. Because if we're creating a cognate of what was ancient and we're talking about Brother Garvey, well, it could have been an ethnonym or an ex-nonym in regards to how people are named either by themselves or a ruling class of people. So it could be an endonym, an ethnonym, an ex-nonym. It all depends on the history. And if we're talking about modern, Stone Age, if we're talking about ancient, we have to be distinctive in that. But I just wanted to interject on that point. I'm not really here to talk about validating someone's right to claim a nationality. I think we're talking about all three Abrahamic faiths.
Can we get to like the Abrahamic religion also though?
Yeah, and to be clear, let's put it back in context. So Marcus Garvey, he claimed the Nicene Creed. He said that Jesus was the greatest reformer in history. He claimed a Black Muhammad. And the whole concept of going back to Ethiopia is the whole bit, fam. Again, if you practice any Abrahamic tradition from a colonialist mindset, it's not going to work in Pan-Africanism. You have the most successful Pan-Africanist in the game with membership from 6 to 10 million, right? You're talking about monotheistic traditions. We know we had Israelites. We know we had Muslims. We know we had Christians, etc. Right? But he did not he didn't have like an issue with working with other people who weren't. The whole issue is we're going back to Africa with it. If you're not, it's a problem.
But how do you this is my thing. How do you practice Pan-Africanism by using Islam when the Prophet Muhammad was a white man? I don't understand that.
So you're gonna have to go to Hadith to even talk about that, right? So I'm a Quranist. I'm a Quranist, and the tradition that that Prophet Noble Ali brought us was a Quranist tradition. So we don't even recognize the Hadith.
You don't recognize, but Noble Drew Ali would have gotten his teachings from somewhere, right?
So when he established the Moorish Science Temple of America, he stipulated that we derive our power and authority from the Quran of Muhammad, not the Quran and the Sunnah.
So yeah, but all right. So the Quran of Muhammad. So but Muhammad was an individual, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but he, according to the texts surrounding Muhammad, he was a white guy.
So again, I don't claim though. So the Quran does not speak of his color, right? I'm a Quranist. I don't deal with the Hadith. I don't deal with the Surah. I don't deal with none of that. Yeah. You got to go to Bashir to deal with that. Yeah.
So how would you claim it to be? How would you bring it back to Africa? Because one, you don't have Muhammad's nationality. Okay, or you do. You actually have him as a Qurayshi Arab, right? So you have him primarily in Mecca and Medina, which is in Saudi Arabia. Yet and still, you would attempt to try and bring your paradigm back to Africa.
So where am I claiming I'm supposed to? So obviously you've never read our literature, right? So I'm just going to be real clear. Nowhere in our literature does it stipulate that even in the Quran, are you supposed to enforce Islam on anyone for anything, right? And so first and second of all, I don't share a nationality with Muhammad. I'm not claiming to be Arab or Quraysh. I'm a Moorish American.
Yeah, but we're going back to the root, because you spoke about the Noble Drew Ali, and you said Noble Drew Ali said in your teachings that he gets his teachings from the Quran, yes?
I said that we derive our power and authority thereof.
You derive your power and authority from the Quran of Muhammad. So that's your root then. So your root would be, according to you, the Quran of Muhammad. Yet and still, we find this Muhammad nowhere in Africa. He's in Saudi Arabia, and he's a Qurayshi Arab. So this is what I'm trying to understand, how you attempt to bring.
So were the historical Moors not Islamic?
Say again.
Were the historical Moors not Islamic?
The historical Moors, yeah, were under Islam. Yes, indeed.
So if I'm claiming my nationality goes back to being Moorish, why is it odd to you and peculiar that I would claim being Islamic?
No, yeah, what the point I'm making is the root of your actual book, or the root of your actual religion, is not African. So if you're, I deal with African roots, because Muhammad, as in you just said, I'll repeat it again.
What about the Quran is not African?
As I said, you said your guy Noble Drew Ali brought from the Quran of Muhammad. The Quran of Muhammad is not an African book. Okay, the Quran of Muhammad is a Qurayshi Arab book, and Muhammad was a Qurayshi Arab from Saudi Arabia and Mecca.
So the Quran itself does not say it's a Qurayshi Arab book. The Qurayshi Arab comes in when Uthman burned the previous Qurans. Second of all, so Garvey said in his own writings, in his own speeches, Muhammad is a black man. Yeah. So again, whoa, slow down. So Mark, again, we canonize Garveyism. Yeah. So in our tradition, we don't deal with some Qurayshi Arab concept. Yeah. We're dealing with the same concept your boy Kalam talks about. Yeah. The East African origin thereof, that concept. Yeah.
This sounds like more pick and mix. I'm not gonna lie. What I'm trying to do is get to the root, and it's like you're denying your root, and you're starting counting at the number 5.
So what you're trying to do is dance around the fact that I can smash you on the science and religion part. So let's just jump to it,
bro. Calm down. What I'm trying to say is, you said to me on this chat that your guy Noble Drew Ali told you guys that he takes from the Quran. So the Quran would be the essence of how you guys got your paradigm, right?
Okay, so let's prove it's a Quraysh.
Hang on. So if the Quran, the Arab Quran from Muhammad, from the Quraysh, is the way in which you got your paradigm, I always go back to the root of things. It just makes sense to go back to the root. And I've always said to people, if the root of the tree is false, then I don't care about the branches or the leaves. Okay, the branches and the leaves of the tree don't make sense to me if the root is actually rotten. So what I'm trying to say to you is, your root is rotten, and you're attempting to tell people that the leaves and the trees and the fruits, that's something you can eat. I can't buy that.
Who's asking you to buy it? So anywhere in this conversation, where am I asking Sarah Garvey to be a Muslim or accept the Quran?
I'm saying for you yourself, bro. Like for you yourself, Richie. We can't even hear you, bro. You need to turn your mic. You need to turn your mic up, bro.
Hold on. Can everyone hear me? Can everyone hear me? Remember, the premise is.
No, we can't hear you. You all broke it up. You gotta fix your
Abrahamic religion.
So, Sarah, let's just get clear with this, right? So the Quran you're trying to avoid, right, is not anti-scientific, and it does not stipulate that you have to practice Islam in any way, shape, or form, right? As a matter of fact, it stipulates I'm supposed to hold you to your tradition. Yeah.
Like I said, you're talking about the leaves and the roots, bro. Like, so the leaves and
show what's false about
and
it.
The branches.
I hear you talking. I don't see you proving nothing. What's false about it?
I'm telling you, by your very essence, you're telling me that you bring stuff back to
What's
Africa.
false about the Quran?
And listen to what I'm saying to you. I'm showing you that your very root is nothing to do with Africa.
How?
Because your root is the Quran or the Qurayshi Quran of Muhammad.
Okay, let's prove what you don't know without Kalam here. Because without Kalam, you know nothing about Islam. So again, the Quran was not transmitted in Quraysh. And the Quran itself, hang on a minute, and the Quran itself does not say it was transmitted in Quraysh. There's a word for Quraysh in the Quran.
Don't get triggered. Don't get triggered. But what I'm trying to say,
let me get in real quick.
I swear I don't understand. I'm trying to say to you, yeah. Sorry, Solomon.
Prove that it's a Quraysh book off the top. You made a claim. Prove it. You ain't proved nothing you said so far,
bro. Let me tell you, the Quran came from a man called Muhammad. Yeah, that's where the Quran came from. That's historical. The man called Muhammad was from the Qurayshi tribe. The man called Muhammad from the Qurayshi tribe in Medina or in Mecca in Saudi Arabia. That is known history. So what I'm trying to say.
So when you go to the book itself, right?
Finished, bro. I'm not even finished.
So okay,
I'm not finished. I'm not finished.
Can I come in real quick?
What I'm trying to say to you is your root is non-African. That is your root is non-African. You attempted to bring it back to Africa with some other stuff, but your root is not African.
So my nationality is African, yeah.
Yeah.
First and foremost, yeah. So the Moors weren't African.
Okay, so now you want to start your story at 5. Okay, let's start counting at the number 5. That doesn't make no sense. I'm trying to count from the number 1, bro. Okay, you can't count from the number.
Let's go back to one of the conversation, right? So one of the conversations, I'm Moorish American, right? And I'm talking about how if you're not practicing your religion from an African perspective, it's bad. Yeah, period. Whatever tradition, philosophical, moral, or whatever.
How can you practice your tradition from an African perspective when the root of your tradition isn't even African?
Okay, let's go to it. So let's go to the book that you have obviously not read. So let's go to the Quran in and of itself. Right, so you're stipulating it's a Quraysh book. Does the Quran stipulate that it's Quraysh?
The Quran came from a Qurayshi man. What are you talking about?
I asked you a simple question. Does the Quran within itself claim that it came down in Quraysh? Because it specifies. It very clearly specifies.
The Quran came. Well, the claim is, let's say, the claim of the Quran is that it came to a man called Muhammad who was in a cave in the cave of Hira in Mecca.
Are you saying that the Quran does not specify the language it came down in?
The Quran was what came down. The oldest Qurans you can find are in, I believe, Syriac.
Are you claiming that the Quran in and of itself does not claim what language it was written down in?
As far as I know, hang on.
Hey, Richie, get Kalam on. He needs help, all right?
Listen, bro, it's not even needing help. Your question is a straw man question. What I'm trying to tell you.
No, it's a very simple question because you made the claim that it's not African, that it's a Quraysh, and when I'm asking you to prove it, you're running from it, right? So the Quran in and of itself says that it came down in the clarifying Arabic, not the Quraysh, right? In the Quran, the Quraysh people were accusing Muhammad of bringing something in a foreign tongue, and when they accused him of that, he was going to kick it with the Ethiopians, talking to Ethiopian Christians, Jews, etc. And in the dialect of the Quran, right? The Quran in and of itself has words in it that are not from the Quraysh, that the Quraysh cannot actually properly transmit.
Mr. Moore, who are the Quraysh? Who are those?
Who were the Ethiopians that Muhammad was going to speak to?
No. I'm asking you, who are the Quraysh? I don't know who the Quraysh. I've never heard of them before.
I can't deal with this, man.
No, you can't.
Now, who are they? I've never heard of Quraysh before. Who are they?
Bro, what does this have to do with the conversation at hand, bro? Real talk. So I'm not claiming Quraysh, am I? Where did I claim Quraysh?
Bro, like, seriously. Like, we all know it's historical that Muhammad was a Qurayshi Arab and it was revealed to him.
100%. And we also know 100% that Uthman burned the previous Qurans because they were not in the Quraysh dialect, and then formally transmitted them in Quraysh. Yeah, you want to say that's not the case, or
Quraysh origin?
Yeah, Uthman did burn the Qurans. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So real quick, so were the Qurans prior to that? Were they all in Quraysh or no?
I would have absolutely no idea.
All right then. Gratitude.
But that doesn't win an argument. I'm basically telling you, and you basically know that Muhammad was a Qurayshi Arab. Okay.
Yeah, he was a Qurayshi Arab. Yeah, he also came from all.
So Quraysh. Hey, Sarah, you said Muhammad was a white guy.
Yeah, according to the Hadith. Yeah, he was a white man.
Yeah, it was according to the Hadith. People are white people. Yeah.
Say again.
So the Europeans then. Qurayshi people are Europeans.
Bro, the Qurayshi people, they ain't African, and he's trying to bring it back to Africa, so I still can't understand.
The topic is
the topic is Islam from Africa, or is the topic are Abrahamic traditions good for black people?
The topic was, are Abrahamic religions good for, are Abrahamic religions beneficial for black people?
So right? the premise I put forth was, if you're practicing them from a colonialist perspective, yeah, they're negative. If you're practicing them from a perspective where they bring you back to Africa, they're positive. Do you agree or disagree with that notion?
You can't. What I'm trying to say is,
I'm asking you just with the premise. Just with the premise. Do you agree or disagree with the premise? Do you agree or disagree with the premise? Do you agree or disagree with the premise?
You cannot bring Islam back to Africa with what you got, because the very root of it is non-African.
Wrong and everything that he brought, and that everything he said was incorrect, and his 6 to 10 million people in his organization that you've never amassed was completely built off of falsehood.
I didn't even mention Marcus Garvey. Okay, I'm talking about.
Can I say something? Kansu was trying.
Please go.
So I really want to hear what you got to say, bro.
I'm just saying that it's circular. It's a lot of true Scotsmen all going all through this, and it's nonsensical. We should really stay on topic, because anyone can be an expert on what they believe in vehemently. That doesn't mean it's right. You can appeal to authority and be true Scotsman all you want. Let's stick on premise.
Agreed, because I'm not asking anybody to be a Muslim anywhere. I'm asking people to go back to Africa with their mindset and with whatever tradition they practice. That's all I'm asking people to do, whether you have a religion or just a philosophy that you practice.
Well, I would say this as we progress with the discussion. I do disagree with the construct of trying to conflate a different culture's rendition or perception of spirituality in a different ethnic organized fashion called religion, which is the European religion, particularly the one that affected Northern Americans, which are Anglo and Saxon and some Vandal tribes that come from the British Isles that came under the auspicity of corporate trade, and then further in the 1450s used skin as a means to identify chattel indentured slaves. So I do not agree with the eschatology of a chattel-ridden slavery byproduct or dialectic called Christianity. I do believe and have facts that ancient Africans practiced animism, which dealt with nature and did not deal with the human form, because the spirit was associated with the breath that did not take human form. You cannot see the breath or the mind now, and you never could. So totems and idols were developed to bring reality into nature in the form of animals and other aspects of animism. You will not find Christianity outside of colonialism, barbarianism, industrialism, socialism, and other geopolitical military concepts that brought religion under the auspicity of war. You did not see anything preaching morals, freedom, or any concepts coming from an Anglo or Saxon perspective, because they were not primal or continental to Africa. So you won't see any cognates of Christianity, Islam, or Judaism for that matter. But you will see geographically displacement of a diaspora that was done under colonialism, not forgetting the Portuguese, the Spaniard, and the French, that also partook by way of Orientalism, the ability to capitalize on chattel people that were then transported here to Northern America and were subject to a unique form of religion that was merely a faction of the original monotheistic religion founded in Persia. Those three monotheistic religions are founded in Persia and then vacillated outward, starting with the Judeo-Christian church called Catholicism. So I do initially on the panel, I disagree with that.
So you think that the religion started from Mithraism?
Mithraism is a natural construct. But once again, we're talking about, and I'll use a modern catchphrase, culture vultures. So we're talking about people that are dominating in a ruling class by controlling resources, particularly taking text and put it in books and having it published, which would then create isolates of neurological thought affecting culture. But social institutions are natural along with Mithraism, because we would take certain things and use them as totems or reference points. If we look at the Moorish Science Temple of America, they have a flag with a green star. That would be considered an idol. In Judaism and in the Abrahamic faiths, that would be considered a false idol. So that would be contradictory to try to bring it into a construct called the African that has no concept of atheism. That is from ethos, and that is a Greco-Roman concept that was indicative to the Grecian and Roman pantheons. It had nothing to do with the pantheons found in the Songhai Empire, the Empire of Bakongo, the Congo, or the Ifa people that speak Yoruba. They had a specific pantheon directed for a specific purpose based on the ontology, i.e. psychology of the African that is continental. So it had nothing to do with the construct called Christianity, which is clearly Roman Catholic, and they use Judean vassals coming from Palestine, migrating into Israel. To this day, they call Ethiopians Falasha and will not give them the honor of the Torah or the Tanakh or the Talmud for that matter. In the Talmud, it says that those of dark skin are devils. So it does not correlate to the people of Africa who are continentally found, and it is a overwhelming cognate of animism that goes from the Maghreb region, where the so-called Moor Berber was, to the Sahel region, where the Mali people was, to the sub-Saharan people of Kenya and Ethiopia. You will not find, even in Madagascar, anyone that brought remnants of the three Abrahamic faiths. The closest you will get are Coptic Ethiopians that use the term Aperu. But you will not find a construct going into ancient continental Africa. You won't find it.
So you don't believe that you cannot take a Abrahamic religion and inject it into the society or into African society without them losing their identity?
No, because in Northern America, no, I don't. Northern America, we suffer from an identity crisis because we do not have an origin or a center of point of reference within Northern America. In continental Africa, they have ancient points of reference. We don't. Everything was stripped from us in the Americas. So we don't have immediate resource outside of folklore that develops our culture. We do not have direct dynamic artifacts or landmarks that identify our culture.
Can I piggyback off of that?
Talk the thing.
Yeah, can I piggyback off the back of that? I've said this many times. The diasporic African, right, is the one with a very huge identity crisis. Okay, which is why, in my experience, and it's just my opinion, why they hold on to so many different to other concepts. So you have the Christian, you have the Hebrew, you have the Moor, you have the Nation of Islam, you have the Muslim, we have so many different, and within those we have different factions within those. Okay, so then we have the 5%. Okay, so then we won't have if you're not 5%, then you're the Moor, and if you're not the Moor, then you're the Christian. If you're not the Christian, then you're the evangelist. If you're not the evangelist, you're the Seventh-day Adventist. If you're not the Adventist, then you're the Catholic. If you're not the Catholic, then you're this. in Islam, if not the Sunni, then you're the Shia. If not the Shia, you're the Hanafi, you know. And we gravitate towards everything else, right, except for us, because we're having an identity crisis. So to go back on topic, whether Abrahamic religions are beneficial to Black people, I always say no, because they're always making us run away from who we truly are. And no matter what faction you try to hold on to, like I've always said with many people, it's like the root of it, like I just said to the Moorish guy, the root of it is rotten, and it doesn't encompass Africa. No matter what Abrahamic religion you go back to,
it's a virus.
It's right, and all of its fruit, its leaves, and its branches are going to not bear the right fruit for you.
Here's where I partially agree with that, right? So again, this is I'm going to explain the colonialist perspective real quick. So, Brother Kansu, we understand in America that we got a lot of people who, like our grandmothers, for instance, like just won't give up Jesus, just won't give up the Bible, just won't give up that Christianity that they were fed and given through colonialism and whatnot. And we know that through that whole white Jesus concept, that on the spiritual negative side from this, right, and the mental negative side of this is that they embrace a concept to where the creative essence of the universe is something that they see as outside of themselves, right? So, and I'm saying just on a mere concept of the person, for instance, who can't leave the Christian tradition or can't leave whatever tradition, right? If I can take that one person in the Christian faith, for instance, right, and bring them back to the Ethiopian concept that existed prior to the Catholic concept, right, to where they're not seeing a white Jesus or a Jesus that is God or some kind of aspect of God that they cannot become, right? That's a positive. I'm doing a step. I'm bringing them closer. I'm bringing them back to not only the continent but to a spirituality that emanates from Africa, right? I'm not here saying anybody has to follow anything, right? That's a colonialist concept. I'm not saying anyone has to be Moorish. That's my nationality. Like the brother's not saying anyone has to be Ghanaian. That would be foolish. I'm not saying anyone has to follow Islam. The concept is any tradition that you practice, it should lead you back home. It should lead you back to Africa. And if it's not, you're going to find problems with that.
But the thing I have a problem with that essentially is because, again, going back to your root, you're saying, oh, you don't have to be part of this. You don't have to be part of that. But going back to the root of the Quran, which your guy went to, that's exactly what is taught. If you don't follow this way, then hell is for you. We are the chosen people as Muslims, and everybody else is the kafir. You go to Christianity, you've got the people who are, the Christians, and then the people that don't follow God are going to hell. All of these concepts, okay, and those aren't African concepts. They're just not African concepts. They're concepts of other people. And so I always say, if you go back to the root, I always said your root is rotten. So you can come with a new version. You can come with a new branch, a new leaf, a new fruit. However, the root of it is just the same when we get back to it. It's just the same.
So me and you have dealt with a lot of the same Muslims on Speaker's Corner, right? The Dawa squad, like I've been beefing with Ali Dawa, Muhammad Hijab, Hamza, all the same cats, brother Hamid, all the same cats you've been beefing with, yeah? And like I hear what you're saying. Like if you come from the Hadithist concepts, yeah? If you come from the same concepts they come from, Islam is horrible. I'm not saying anybody follow that, right? Like, so again, all their schools of thought go back to certain madhabs, right? Historically, the Moors, like when the Moors took over Spain in 711, right? There was no madhab anywhere in the Islamic Empire anywhere, right? So the Moorish practiced the formless concept of Islam. They didn't have this whole you have to do it like this, have to do it like that. When they took over Spain, again, it was African Moors doing it, right? It wasn't Arabs from the East. It was people from the Senegambia doing this stuff, yeah? And they practiced the formless concept. And that's what I'm saying.
What year again? What year? Sorry, what year was that? You took over Spain? What year was that?
I was talking about 711 AD right there.
711 AD.
Yeah. So at that point in time, for instance, the person who invented the oldest school of thought, the Hanafi school of thought, he was 12 years old at the time that the Moors took Spain. The Moors were not following any kind of Eastern concept. In fact, they were independent for the longest time, monetarily and religiously, right? Their Islam does not, even today, West African Islam does not reflect a whole bunch of aspects from the East. You can go to certain parts of West Africa right now and see women leading the dua. You can't find that anywhere in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, but the thing is, this is what I'm trying to say. That's due to Africanness. Okay, that is not due to. Precisely. It's for want of a better word, Africanness, right? But because Africans, when they do find something, they put their flavor into it. They put their ways of being into it, because they hold on to certain things within their culture, and the culture, you know, seeps into the religion. So we know that women in many African societies, okay, with many matrilineal systems, so a woman leading something is not, you know, foreign to an African, okay, because they don't live in a patriarchal society. However, when you get to these societies, most of them are patriarchal. The other ones, the Arab and the European and stuff, right? So they wouldn't want a woman leading that stuff. But what I'm trying to say is, even if the African went into Spain, okay, with their own version, let's say their own version of Islam, what I'm trying to say is the root of it is still Muhammad's Qurayshi version, or the Islam that came from the Qurayshi Muhammad in the cave. So we can, and it's like what you're doing now. So the Moorish American identity, to me, is another, let's say, offshoot, right? Let's say an offshoot, another branch of that. And you're saying, oh, well, we're now doing this. Everyone, like we said back in the beginning of the conversation, culture vultures, right? This is what Brother Kodsi said, culture vultures, right? So what you've done is that you've taken a culture, or part of it, you've taken part of a culture, and you've attempted to remix it and make it, you know, palpable to you and the people that you follow. People do it all the time. But what you can't do now is claim the root, because you're nothing like the root now. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you're some different version of what the root used to be. But you're still trying to claim. But you're still trying to lay claim to the root. And so the people that are actually practicing the root, they would look at you and be like, that's not my people. We don't do that stuff.
That's what I'm trying to explain, is they're not practicing the root. They're practicing the Hadithist form. So again, everyone that we talked about, right? They'll say that I'm Salafi, I'm Hanafi, I'm all this other type of stuff, right? And what I'm saying is that's not the root. That came after. Those are branches from the root, right? And they're rotten branches. I agree with that 100%. Hence, I'm a Quranist, right? So here's what I'm saying. There's nothing in the Quran in and of itself that would say the women in Africa cannot lead the dua. That's why they do. There's nothing in the Quran that says they can't. There's people in the East who be like, oh no, in their culture. Again, Islam is not an Arab culture, right? Islam came to actually clean up so-called Arab culture when you look at the Quran, right? So when again, I'm not saying, and let me be clear, I'm not saying anyone should or has to apply the Quran, right, to their life. I'm saying that for the people for the African descent people who choose to apply the Quran to their life, for instance, if they practice it from the Hadithist concept, it's going to separate them. That's the colonialist mindset. The people who came into Africa trying to enslave us with Islam, they were of the Hadithist concept, not of the same concept that the schools of thought, or not of the same concept that the Moors were, of that formless Islam, right? So what I'm saying is, if you're practicing that formless Islam, it's way more beneficial than practicing the Hadithist form, right? And that's all I'm saying is if you're going to practice a tradition, practice when it leads you back to Africa. That's all I'm saying.
Well, let me say this respectfully. We have to look at, present day and use it as a reference tool. We cannot disengage ourselves from modern history. And we tend to think modern history is a few years old, and it's not. It goes back at least 600 years. And when we start talking about Islam, what you're talking about, the formless Islam, would be, indicative to certain groups like the Bedouin Muslims, who had a pantheon of deities that they would tie into worship. And this was also described by Herodotus, who created the universal knowledge system and Roman canon that has been followed to this day. Roman canon is transferred into legal law here in the United States. So we look at those cognates. We have to look for certain cultural and social cognates, and not just historical data, not just stuff that's written down in a primary form. We also have to look at how these people socialized and how they thought. Let's take Noble Drew Ali, aka Timothy Drew, that was born in North Carolina, went to the East Coast, found something that motivated him, because in 1928, it wasn't normal for a man to walk around with a collared shirt that happened to have dark skin. It wasn't normal for a man to walk around with tailored shoes and a turban. This person was educated internationally, not just Westernly. So he adopted things like "unto thee I grant" into the Holy Quran, which was an Americanized neo-political movement in order to standardize the Eastern concept of Islam because it was Arabized. And Noble Drew Ali was ahead of his time, and he knew that because he had to appeal to black people, because he was furthermore getting ready to teach, unbeknownst to him, Elijah Muhammad, who took the same allegorical meanings and created his nation of Islam, and then created his own dialectic in an American platform. I must denote this. The psychology of the Northern American African and other Africans of the diaspora would conflict with the ancient monotheistic religions, because those religions were commandeered by a ruling class of people that were not in our culture. When we look at the term culture, when we study culture, those who have been deemed professionals to do so, they look at 8 elements. They look at symbols, they look at language, they look at values, they look at beliefs, they look at norms, they look at behavioral patterns, they look at artifacts, they look at social institutions. They don't just pull artifacts and try to define a group of people's psychological disposition around a religion, because the spirituality is the underlying ebb and flow of that particular religion. In animism, we have tribalism that has a hierarchy system, like the brother Sarah said, that can be patrilineal and matrilineal. But the foundation of the both in Africa is matrifocal. We focused on the feminine side of things, in which we used nature and called her Mother Nature. In the East, it was Mother Netta. When you go into the Congo and they migrated into Southern America, we talk about Mami Wata. We talk about Oshun. We talk about Yemoya. We talk about these feminine deities that are matrifocal to the birth of patriarchs. So this is a totally different cultural system, and trying to subject continental-minded African people to a construct that is foreign to them will create what has always been created in Islam: jihad. This is why jihad has been created in Islam, because of the force of a paramilitary influence religion. When Muhammad brought Islam in the form of hadith, it was militarily. It wasn't anything that was done in a missionary form. When it was, remember, Islam, when we talk about the hadith-based Islam, was Protestant reform, starting with the Protestant religion of the King James Version Bible that protested against the eschatology of the demagogues called Roman Catholics that taught Judaism. So we have to pay attention to more elements than just finding primal data on Google. That's not going to cut it. We're studying human beings. We're not just studying data. It's deeper than that.
Yes.
I digress.
That's true.
Hey, Brother Counsel, I got a question for you, brother. So in your eloquent breakdown of what you were just talking about, do you feel that Noble Drew Ali did a disservice to the people in how he structured his organization and how he was leading? Like, so you made a reference to the difference between Hadithist Islam and the non, right? So in what he set up and what he structured, do you feel like it was a disservice to the people?
No. I think for his time, that circa, the pressure and the everyday life, it was necessary. He was ahead of his time. But now in 2018, he's behind this time. If there needs to be a neo movement that takes the elements of Noble Drew Ali and look at where he failed. We tend to be egotistical because of a displacement of power under white supremacy racism. We have tricked ourselves into believing we own something. We're talking about pyramids that were built circa possibly 7,000 BC, and we act like we built them. We didn't build a damn thing, and we haven't built anything. There hasn't been another Drew Ali. There hasn't been another Malcolm X, and there won't be as long as we keep hanging on what they did. That is narcissistic and is self-destructive. Noble Drew Ali served his purpose for 1928. Now you count the years from 1928, and then you look at the lifespan of a human being, and you tell me if he's relevant.
The peep game family. I want you to peep game real quick. Like, so I don't disagree with the brother. Here's what I'm saying. Like, so any more that's listening, right? Who takes issue with what Kansu is saying, they still have a colonialist mindset, right? I'm sitting there saying at the table of Pan-Africanism, right? I'm supposed to expect disagreement. I'm here prepared listening to how we disagree and However, my belief system is going to impact someone else. So I asked Sarah off the top, do you have an issue with me being a Moor, right? I asked Brother Consu, do you think that that Brother Noble Darley brought something that was negative or bad for the people, right? No issue on both sides, right? And when Consu says, but I feel like this is a problem, now it's my responsibility as a brother, right? Sitting at the table to listen, like, okay, now what about this is a problem for you? Oh, you feel it needs to be updated? Cool, let's talk about that. How do you feel about it? Let's talk. It's supposed to be a conversation starter, not looking for division, right? And so the issue is most people who have a tradition who practice an Abrahamic tradition, right? I was talking about this with Jedi and RASPECT on RASPECT's channel. You know what I'm saying? Is they practice their traditions, like in the diaspora. We like, so the brother from Ghana, right? You know, you're from Ghana. You know your history, all that type of stuff, right? Most people in the diaspora don't have a direct connection to their history. So when they find a belief system, they now make the belief system their identity, and that's not the truth. They take it way too serious and way too literal at that point. So when people like Sarah come in and critique the belief system, oh, now I feel like you're critiquing me, and my world is crumbling around me. Nah, you can't have that. You feel me? So I should be able to have my belief structure, right? And have my brother Consul say, hey, you know what your man brought is outdated now, right? And I should be able to hear that and not get emotional about that, right? Because it's not me he's critiquing.
We're not knocking your movement, you know. We're not knocking your
movement. And if you do, that's cool. My point is if you have an issue with the movement, as your brother, I'm supposed to be able to listen, like, hey, what's the issue? How is what I'm doing negatively impacting you, and how we can work together in this, yeah?
Yeah, you can talk all the good talk, but I want to know the spirit that's guiding that movement. That's all I'm asking for. Because there was been many organizations come before yours. Yeah, they had the right idea. Yeah, Garvey's one of the best blueprint we ever had. Do you know what I'm saying to you? But he was a Christian, Baptist Christian. So it's the spirit. We have to divest from Abrahamic religion, all concepts of it, and go back to the root. That is it. It's so simple. Do you know what I'm saying to you? You can bring whatever you want to bring, but if the spirit ain't right, nah, bruv, you ain't getting nowhere.
So here's the benefit. Oh, sorry. Here's the benefit of it.
Benefit who?
The benefit of all this, right, is the fact, like, so let's say you say you're Kemetic, or I say I'm Islamic, or someone says they're whatever, right? The moment you identify with that, now I know what moral code to identify with you, right? So in a struggle, I want to know what kind of moral code. I don't care what religious code you got. I want to know what kind of moral code you got, right? If I'm standing next to you in a war, I want to know what you believe, fam, right off the top.
Right.
So here's what I'm saying, fam. I want to know what you believe.
Are you getting your moral wisdom from Islamic faith, religion?
No, I'm getting my moral wisdom through anthropomorphized stories of our ancestors written down in book form, right? Understanding the fact that they're anthropomorphized stories of the truth, that they're storybooks for us to get lessons from to apply to actual life.
Who?
All of them.
Who?
Pick a tradition, fam.
Oh. So why are you a Muslim?
Because it puts me at peace and it brings me up here on the front lines next to y'all saying, what can we do together? That's why.
You're gonna write idea, but you're not gonna write spirit, bro. Yeah, you have an idea, which is very good, but your spirit ain't right.
So what's wrong with me saying that I want to be shoulder to shoulder with you, and that I want my tradition to lead me back to Africa?
That's nice. I love that. I love that about you. That's really good. You know what I'm saying to you? But like I'm saying to you, yeah, listen, these Abrahamic religions are a virus. Whatever concept you look at it, ideology is a virus to the African. Yeah? And like the other brother said, that the North Americans, they've lost. They've got no identity. They can't trace to a source.
Right.
To get the historical whatever knowledge from. So they grab hold of all concepts that was given to them.
Right, 100%. I'm with that. I'm with that 1000%. Here's what I'm saying, right? Like at the table of Pan-African conversations, right? We should be we it's not satisfactory that you and I have a 1000% disagreement and we can't find any middle ground, right?
Absolutely.
So
yes.
So what I'm saying is at the middle ground, right? What I'm saying is what we should be able to agree on. And I'm not saying you're wrong in whatever you just said, right? I may disagree, but I'm not saying you're wrong, right? What I'm saying what we should be able to at least agree on is if you're practicing whatever tradition, moral, spiritual, whatever, from a colonialist mindset is negative. And whatever tradition you're practicing should lead you to the front line standing next to your brother and going back to Africa. Yeah? We should be able to at least agree on that, yeah?
Yeah. So you can be whatever you want to be as long as it's race first. Yeah. Is what you're saying.
As long as it brings you back to Africa, yeah, fam.
Yeah.
Like Jedi said the same thing. I don't care what you believe, as long as what you believe got you on the front line next to me.
So do you call the people inhabiting your ancient sort of geographical nation country? Do you call them brothers still? The people that currently cohabiting your land now, because you claim to come from Morocco, innit? And Mauritania and all that. That's where you claim to come from.
Well, so our ancient empire that we talk about in our literature goes from Northwest Africa, Southwest Africa. It goes also into the Americas and the Caribbean islands and whatnot, right?
When you come to Africa, where would you base?
I was just correcting some information real quick, bro. So to answer your question, I connect myself to the people over there who look like me, right? So again, not everybody there in Morocco is African.
So how are you planning to sort of work with them?
Who said I was trying to work with them?
Well, they live there, they own the country. So what are you gonna do?
I'm trying to work, bro. I'm trying to work with you. I ain't trying to work with the French Moroccan. I'm trying to work with you. I'm trying to work with Sabra. I'm trying to work with Kansu. I'm trying to work with Rich.
That's good. It's got to be a larger scale, isn't it? We all have to unite.
That's what I'm saying.
And we got Hebrew on this panel. Can the people hear me?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact,
I think brother, this brother.
We're in there. Cause like this is all very Muslimish. Yeah, I think they've got pained enough. You understand? I think the Moorish brother, he's been very kind enough to engage, but I think it's kind of getting wrapped up.
Yeah, where's the Hebrews at? Are you a Christian?
No, I think we got a Hebrew on. I think
as well, yeah.
So
he dropped some bombs. Yeah, he wrapped it up with some of his statements. So shout out 21 gun salute to Konsu, yeah, because if you didn't listen to what he was saying when he made some of his statements, please go back, rewind the tape, because he smashed it to bits, yeah. He really did. So I need you, everybody in the chat, big up to you who've been writing in. Sorry I haven't been able to speak. It's been really pissing me off, yeah, because my computer's been doing shit. Yeah, but go back, listen to the statement that Brother Konsu made, because trust me, he set it up, he knocked it down, he took the ball out, he set up again, knocked it down again, he killed it. So yeah, but if there's a Hebrew,
the question is still on the table. Oh, my bad. I don't want to cut you with.
No, go to you, bro. Solomon, go to you.
I mean, the question still remains on the table. With all that being said, can we use the Abrahamic faiths without it affecting our culture? I think that it was a lot of evidence proving that you can. Like, I think he made reference to the fact that in West Africa, the women lead the prayer, so the Islam didn't affect their culture. You know, and then is another. I think Wesley Muhammad wrote a book called Black Arabia, where he was making the claim that Islam is just another stolen legacy from African people. So
let me interject on that too when I get the chance. Yeah, I wanted to disambiguate. I want to clear that up.
Go to, bro.
Yeah, because yes, it did. I mean, when you talk about Islam is not an ancient art. You do have remnants of what eventually became Islam, as we speak of Bedouin peoples of that such, because there was a pantheon. It wasn't just Allah. There was a pantheon that led to that evolution in that particular construct. However, in Africa, the center of Africa is animism, which is nature. That's never deviated in Africa. So when you take nature and embody it in a man, that is called Obara or Osa Obara in Yoruba language, which means the transformation of ego. See, we were highly intelligent. We did not need a foreign construct for us to formulate morals and precepts. We already had our natural morals and precepts, and we knew to try to edify the self with the Most High is pure ego. To put a humanistic connotation to nature is egotistical. We understood that the term ego and superego was healthy. Ego dealt with the self, superego dealt with your parents, grandparents, so forth, and so on. We called that Ifa. And in the Ifa, spirituality has no personality. So there was no need to talk to the air because you embodied the air. You were one and the same. So if we bring something ludicrous that is going to put something in a box and create idolatry in which they contradict and argue against, it does go against African ontology, which is the African psychology of African progression. We have to be constructive and progressive as African people in 2018. We cannot adopt 1711 practices from another culture.
I agree. And I would also say, whether you be Hebrew, whether you be Muslim, whether you be Christian, and if you're trying to use those concepts, right, to forward yourself, if at any point the originator of any of those books steps to you, they'll always have one over you. Always. They will always have something to hold over you. When you have your own stuff, no one holds anything over you. No one can do it. So if an African stepped to an African and started speaking about Ifa or whatever, they can bond on it. If the African started speaking to another African on Kemetic science, they can bond on it. If an Arab man came to the Moor, if a actual quote unquote Hasidic Jew or Ashkenazi Jew came to a Hebrew and then started speaking in the language, he's got something over him. Okay, and so we need to stop. This is why I said it's also about a self-confidence thing. We are in an era where we don't actually need these people's things anymore. We don't need to. We can do our own stuff, basically. Go back to our own root and do our own stuff. We actually don't need other people's stuff to validate ourselves anymore. Like Constantine said, it's 2018. So I'm not going to take on Islam, attempt to give me a new school of Islam, and then I start speaking, and then an Arab guy says, "Oh, who are you?" And I say, "Oh, I'm a so-and-so type Muslim," and they're like, "Yeah, what type of Muslim is that though? Because Prophet Muhammad was in the cave," and and he's like, now he's starts, and he's going to look at you like you're foreign because you are. You're foreign to him because he's got the root and you've got one of the branches or the leaves that sprouted off from it. And I'm just saying, really and truly, we need to stick to our root and do for ourselves, because otherwise other people will have something over us.
So should I not practice Kemetic sciences now because European people are now trying to say that they originated that type of stuff and they're propagating that stuff and all that concept? So I don't get what you're saying, fam. Like on one hand, you're saying we don't need their validation, but on the other hand, if an Arab comes through and you know for a fact I'll smash any Arab speaking Muslim who wants to come to the game on whatever they want to talk about, right? Like I smashed Imam Bashir on the concept, right? Like I don't like. Why do we need their validation on that? I don't understand that.
Like I said to you earlier in the conversation, you can't even get past the cave in Medina, bro, when it comes to Muhammad. So how you think you're going to smash an Arab Muslim doesn't make no sense, because essentially you are going back to his root, not your own root. You're going back to their root, not your own root. So you can say,
if we're going to debate origin, right? I can understand there's two conversations happening, right? Like one, what's the origin of everything, right? So we're going to debate on the religious concept of what the Quran is saying about itself, right? And I'm not trying to debate that with you here, right? That's not valid, right? Like you're not a Muslim, you're never going to be a Muslim. So me claiming that the Quran stipulates that Islam is timeless and it goes back to the beginning doesn't matter to you, right? And I don't care that it doesn't matter to you, right? I'm not supposed to care, right? The concept is what do you believe and what do I believe, and how is it going to keep us from working against with each other or against each other? And we need to make sure as grown men that for our people, whatever we believe is not keeping us from working against each other.
Right, but this is a thing. I've been saying this for the whole conversation. We keep saying we want to work together, we want to work with each other. Yet when you bring your stuff to me, yeah, it's not of us. So if we're going to beat us, we're going to beat us 100%, because what's going to happen is you cannot build a house with shaky foundations.
What if I ask you to embrace? What have I specifically, individually to you?
No,
asked you to embrace?
I'm talking about for yourself. You're contradicting yourself, because on one hand you're saying you want to be African, you want to build with Africa, yada yada yada, and on the other hand you're saying your root as a person, the stuff that you hold dear, yeah, is non-African.
So
okay?
We're going through this. So you're making the assumption. You're making an assumption you can't prove, right? Like you literally cannot prove that what I'm talking about is not African. Right? If you want to have that specific debate, is Islam African? That's a whole nother concept, right? That's a whole nother concept. What I'm talking about is, so me being here as a Muslim trying to reach Pan-Africanist unity, right? Why is there a beef with you on that, right? I'm not asking you to be a Muslim. I'm asking, what can we do to work together? And you're saying I can't work with you because I don't like Abrahamic traditions. I'm not asking you to like them.
I'm saying
I don't care if you like them or not.
I'm saying for you as a person, for me it seems like you're still suffering from the identity crisis. Just for me, it's my opinion. You can take it or leave it, because what you're saying to me, it's like you're trying to live in two worlds at one time. Okay. You're saying that you want to be. That's
your opinion.
Yeah, it's my opinion. You know, you can take it or leave it.
So but now that we've got that out the way, how can we work together, brother?
I can work with you. I can definitely work with you. However, what essentially the people that I want to work with, just for myself, are people who have confidence in themselves. And you don't seem like that kind of brother. Like, I need somebody. I'm just letting you know.
I need say that though, Sarah.
No, because if you had confidence in yourself, you go back to your root and have confidence in your people and in the stuff that is yours.
So I've done more work in your. Hold on. Hold on. So I've done more work in your country than you have from America, right? So I've actually tried to build with Kalam, RASPECT, Jedi, and you about having you and Kalam go down to the G circle and speak about the Pan-Africanist concept of try to find the African within your religion. And if it's not happening, leave it aside, right?
Yeah, so but that's not my fight. That's not my argument. I'm not telling people
if you're speaking on it, it is your fight. It is your responsibility.
Listen, I'm not trying to tell. That's what you want to tell people. I don't want to tell people to find the African in their religion. No.
Yeah, you want to tell people having a religion is wrong. How is that unifying anything?
Listen, I'm trying to tell people, to tell Black people, tell African people to be yourself. That's what I'm trying to tell people.
So when I came to you saying I'm a Moorish American, you were like, oh no, you're not that. When I came to you saying I'm a Muslim,
Sarah, what is your root? What is your root, Sarah?
What you want, right? Or what it seems like you're saying about.
You heard my question, Sarah?
Is that you're saying?
Oh yeah, he heard. He's just avoiding it, bro.
Hang on. I just want to finish my point. It's like what you're trying to say is find the African within your religion. Now, like Khonsu said, or like Marcus Garvey said, you talk about Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey said, we worship the Black God, find the Black God. Marcus Garvey, I literally think Marcus Garvey is a fantastic individual, hence the reason why I took his name on. However, we are in 2018. We can take his blueprint, but Marcus Garvey was talking to the people of his time. Okay, he wasn't talking to us in 2018. He was actually talking to the people of his time. Okay,
so why not take the successes of his movement and build upon it?
No, but I can, but I don't need to. See, Marcus Garvey needed to tell people that because the whole of his people that were coming to him had the religion. Right. The whole of the people that were literally going to see
for the ones that do, why not apply the concept?
Hang on. So Marcus Garvey understanding, okay, that the people that he's speaking to have religion, he needed to appeal to them in a way that was beneficial. We don't need that in 2018. We don't need that.
So let me ask you a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
So with the Abrahamic traditions, we saw that, and I'm not saying anyone has to. I'm saying for people who do follow them, right? Mm-hmm. If you follow them in the Garveyite concept, we saw that 6 to 10 million African descent people of the diaspora got together under those Abrahamic traditions, looking back to a Black Jesus, a Black Muhammad, and to the God of Ethiopia. What is negative about building upon that concept? Like, so for people who are of that concept, right? Not if you're not. I'm not asking you to be, and trying to pretend like everyone has to follow a belief system like that. That's the colonist talking from your mind right now. I'm saying from an African perspective. I'll tell you what's negative about having a Black Jesus. Let's just use a Black Jesus example. Jesus as a concept is a savior. Okay, as a concept, he's going to be the savior of all mankind. Okay, so when you have in your psyche that you are going to be saved by someone, at some point in your psyche, you're not going to do enough for yourself to save yourself.
because you're waiting on someone. Hang on, because you're waiting on somebody else to say. Hang on, because you're waiting on somebody else to save you. We don't need no one else to save us. We can look around ourselves and say, you know what, we're gonna have to save our goddamn self, because ain't no guy coming out of the sky to try and save us. Black, white, alien, whoever. He's not coming out of the sky. So you want me to tell people to wait on a black savior now? Don't wait on a white one. Wait on a black one. No, we don't need those kind of concepts.
These false arguments, bro. So I'm not telling you to have any wait on anybody. First and foremost, let's go back to the argument. Hold on.
No. Y'all been talking for a minute.
We do have to save ourselves as a people, man. We all look outwards instead of inwards. Go ahead, Solomon.
Yeah, I think that yeah, that's just historically inaccurate. Even if you want to engage the European, like the Knights Templars wasn't waiting on no savior. Like when you look at the history of Christianity, those were the colonizers. They wasn't waiting for no savior. I mean, so even if you want to apply that Christian theology, that didn't stop them from being proactive. So your argument is
no. Sarah's making a good argument though, but but again, listen to it really clear. So when you were talking with Bob the Builder, brother, man, he brought up the Ethiopian Christian concept, right? And so when you go back to that concept, the Ethiopian Christians originally did not have this outside savior concept of Jesus, right? So like when I'm saying, like here in America, we got people like my grandmother all day will not give up Jesus, will not give up her Jesus all day, right? I would much prefer that she dies believing in the African concept of the Ethiopian concept of Jesus. That's not God Almighty. You understand what I'm saying? That doesn't make God something outside of you. Does not make the creative force of nature something outside of you, right? That's not negative in any way, shape. That's the God of Ethiopia that Marcus Garvey's talking about, right? Period.
Yeah, but what you're also doing, you're also talking about your grandma's time, and I'm not going to disrespect your grandmother or anything, but your grandma's time is closer to Marcus Garvey's time than we are, and so we need to move forward with a lot of the stuff. We can use the blueprint, okay, and build upon it. We need to move forward, and waiting for a savior or believing that there's a man that died for all of our sins and all this kind of stuff. It's just other people's concepts. It's like, just be yourself, man.
So did Garvey say wait on a savior? Did nobody really say wait on a savior? And am I saying that the Ethiopian concept of Christianity is saying wait on a savior?
No, I'm saying that the fact that you've got these philosophical concepts in your, there's the mere fact you've got these philosophical concepts in your head, we need to really and truly purge ourselves, let's say, for want of a better word, of a lot of these concepts, because they bring it just bring a different psychology. If you like looking at the world holistically, like a lot of African systems look at the world in a holistic way. A lot of these religions essentially look at it as like you said, they separate themselves from the whole, or they separate themselves from the all. And all of these kind of philosophies and these kind of concepts are not African. So I'm saying, if we can get back to how we thought, and I'm not saying all of us are going to do it. I really don't believe all of us are going to do it. Let me just get that out there. I don't believe all of us are going to do it. However, I'm saying, as a rule, for me, the people that I want to work with, generally, if I'm going to build something with you, I need to be building with people that actually believe that their own stuff is good enough. That's just for me. And I'm one man, so
just to clarify, so are you saying that the original Ethiopian construct of how they believe in God was Jesus was a savior outside of them, and they had to wait for God or Jesus to come save them?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
So if just as a for instance, let's say that their view of God had them believing that God was something within them that empowered them to create while they were in the here and now, right? And if I was able to get my grandmother who believed in the white Jesus, who was going to save her from the outside, and I went from that to taking her to believing in the Ethiopian Jesus that teaches her to save herself from the inside, is that not a positive step?
Of course it is.
So I'm here. Another realistic question. So, do you think it's realistic that you're going to get everybody who believes in the Abrahamic tradition to just dump it for whatever you're talking about?
I just told you I don't believe that's going to happen.
So why are we beefing? Because I feel
everyone's going to make it. Not everyone's going to make it. I'm just saying, not everyone's going to make it, bro. You know?
So can we agree? Go ahead.
Huh?
Yeah, remember the original point, are Abrahamic faiths good for black people? That's what we're here to discuss. So
it's just going to cause too much
all of
confusion.
this discussion of working with people as an individual, yeah, remember, is it beneficial to have the Muslim thing, the Hebrew thing, all of these facets running? Is it going to hinder the movement? It's not whether or not we can work together, but is it going to be the most efficient way to do this thing? Yeah,
did it hinder darkness?
Gave you the analysis. I think Sarah gave you the analysis, at least especially on the Muslim shit. That's why I would have loved to have heard from our brother. Listen, I got Terry Riggs here just in the studio.
Yeah, just quickly interjecting that we can look at the scenario of Liberia and Sierra Leone and see what happened there. Can anyone answer?
What do you mean, Terry? What do you mean, bro?
In understanding, remember what we're saying, it would the Abrahamic faith or Christianity be right with the people in Africa. If they have a traditional system, wouldn't it be opposing another religion on top of theirs, which they will make become very defensively?
Yes, it will do. Absolutely.
Because Sierra Leone and Liberia, if we go into its history, you realize that there's always been a war between that.
Between what?
Between the Americans that came over as and opposed Christianity.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So you
that lived.
You attribute their disagreement just solely off of religious belief.
Would you say?
Was there disagreement based solely off of religious?
Because they not fully, but they opposed the religious beliefs.
Abrahamic.
Remember the guys that left the Americas were Methodist and Baptist Church.
Baptist,
Yeah, brother Terry's making a great point. He's making a great point because again, so this touches on what I was saying earlier. So the particular group that came over, right? They had no self-identity, right? The people coming from the Americas, they had been stripped from language, stripped of culture, etc., right? So like my Ghanaian brother, he's connected to his people, right? These people came out from America. They took these constructs of colonialist Christianity and took that as their identity, right? So when they went over to Africa, they were basically puppets of colonialism without even understanding it. You understand what I'm saying? And that's the danger. This is why I'm agreeing with everybody that the danger of any tradition.
Yeah, but let's not forget that Africa is also colonized, mentally. Yeah, we've got a lot of Hebrews, Christians, Muslims in Africa itself, on the continent. Yeah, so this is just confusion we're bringing. You know what I'm saying to you? If we don't divest, now your idea of bringing African people together, that's a very good idea, but you can't uphold that with Abrahamic faiths. No way. Brother Moore, how long do you think the African race of people have been yoked under religion?
When you say religion, define the premise.
Abrahamic, the three main ones, How long do you think we've been yoked under?
So I would consider us being yoked for as long as we were battling the Catholic tradition with that. So again, I separate.
Can you give like a timeline, like historical timeline, a rough figure? Yeah, how long?
I'm gonna say from the Punic Wars on, right? Because it wasn't. So it wasn't until the fall. It wasn't until the fall of the Carthaginians and whatnot in Hannibal, to where like we really got hit hard with Christianity in the colonialist concept. So again, let's remember, right? Like, so when our people practice a tradition, they practice from a spiritual tradition, right? Like, so when the colonials take any tradition, they make it political and a weapon, right? Like, so weaponized Abrahamic traditions. I'm saying we were dealing with from the Punic times, etc. on, right?
So the Punic times, they were Muslims, right?
Say what?
The Punic times, the Hannibals, the Carthaginians, they were Muslims.
No, not at the time. As a matter of fact, my mother's lineage goes back to the Israelites, to the Punic Jews and whatnot.
So then, at what point did Africans become yoked under religion? Then I'm talking about, because if the Carthaginians were Muslims, yes, how long have we been yoked under religion, Abrahamic religion, i.e., Muslim? Islam.
So I just, so you're saying Muslim, right? Like, so I also just told you I descend from literally the North African Jews, yeah. So I'm giving you historical concept.
Did you say Jews? Did you say just
Yeah,
Jews?
yeah, the Maghrebim, North African Jews on my mother's side, yes, sir.
The Maghrebs, the Jews.
The Maghrebim.
The Maghrebin, are they the same as the Berbers?
They intermixed at one point in time, but not necessarily the same. They came along in a different migration with the Carthaginians, etc.
Interesting. Okay, all right.
So for instance, one of my family names is Cordoba, right? That goes back to the Phoenician Corteb, which means oil press. They were the Barcids are the people. The Barcid dynasty of the Carthaginians are the ones who made Spain the thing. Barcelona is named after the Barcids.
You're mentioning the people.
So hold on, there's one question. The Jews that you're talking about, are those the ones that got kicked out of Spain?
They were there before then, and so the
ones that were outside the walls of Morocco.
So one more time, you cut out.
I'm saying, is it the Jews that were outside Morocco that when the Spanish Catholics put a treaty on?
Inquisition.
Right. So they were there in Mauritania, they were there in Morocco, they were there in Tunisia, they were there in Libya and whatnot. Before going into Spain, but they were all before. Go ahead.
So they were there before. Did they get into Mali at that time?
I'm gonna be real honest. I don't know too much about. I'm actually researching right now about the Israelite culture.
You can't have African Jews getting kicked out of Spain and coming into Mali. There's no such period in time. Jews coming into Mali from Spain.
Remember the times when Spain kicked out
black
the Moors,
but they're black or European
and the Jews. Hold on, wait. And kicked out the Jews. There was a Pacific Jews that were outside Morocco, right? That separated coming into certain parts of West Africa. And if you look at the treaty of the Barbary Company, you understand the treaty.
Hold on. I thought that Spain was ruled by the Moors. They weren't Jews.
Yeah, hold on. He's up. So this is my family history. So on one side, I descend from the people. So when the Moors went into Spain in 711, they went in on the invite of the native Israelites who were being smashed down on by the Christians and whatnot. And they said, we will gladly be under your dominion and help you get these people off our back if you come over here.
The Israelites.
Yeah, the Jews in Spain.
Oh.
So
are we talking about Europeans or Africans here?
We're talking about Africans. So again, I just told you. So I descend
Africans from. That call themselves Israelites.
So is Carthage not in Africa?
Carthage.
Is Carthage not in Africa?
Where in Africa is Carthage?
I'm not even gonna have that conversation with you.
No. I just want to know. It's ancient, isn't it? So, but there must be like a modern country there now where it was. So, what country is it now?
I believe it'd be Tunisia.
Tunisia, right? Okay.
Consul, do you know anything about the history of the Black Jews? And if so, can you elaborate on it a little bit?
Did you hear that question? Repeat that question, please, love.
Historical Black Jews.
Consul, if he knew anything about the Black Jews.
There ain't no such thing as a Black Jew. Never existed.
Okay.
So let me ask you a question.
I think she was asking Consul a question.
Yeah, I was.
Okay, sorry. Okay. Oh,
no, it's all good. That was a question for Consul. Go ahead, Consul.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can hear you, brother.
Yeah, you're talking about the Igbo that adopted some Jewish traditions. It wasn't the origin of the Igbo, however. It was not what they practiced continentally. And this is where we have an ongoing motif with Abrahamic faiths. Because when we study Abrahamic faiths, certain tribes would adopt those faiths under the auspicity of colonialism. Now, what we call a colonialism is a modern construct, but colonialism always existed in those pockets of Africa before borders were established and they were called nation states. So you still had issues with certain people, and they wanted to protect themselves, so they were politically aligned with certain people. Henceforth, the Igbo would adopt the practice of Jewish people. But that was just the faith. Who they were and who they identified themselves as were Igbo people. And they were fully conscious of the religious practice that they adopted. They did not conflate their religion into their nationality. They were very conscious of who they were as Igbo people. Very understanding of that. And that's where we get, especially in Northern America, the misconception of who we are, not only historically, but biologically. Because we look at things like being biracial or being mixed. That's an argument in itself, because there needs to be disambiguation with that, especially with the Northern American person of color, a non-white person, in a system of white supremacy. This is a system. This is systematic. This isn't a random occurrence. This isn't just people adopting a religion because of inner spirituality to be connected to a most high. This is a systemic means of control geographically by controlling people.
Yes.
This isn't something that's not calculated. This is where the ego comes in, because we are underestimating exactly what the European did and the Eurasian did in the invasion of Africa. We also forget that the Middle East sits on the tectonic plate of Africa. So Middle Eastern people would be called African. They were only connected by the man-made Suez Canal. But that is a caste system of a people called Romans that were Hellenistic, that Romanized everything, i.e. named it. This is where we get books of diction called dictionaries. They were adopted by Roman canon law practice.
Greeks first.
Because the Arabian, the Arabs sat on the tectonic plate of Africa does not mean that it encompassed the culture of Africa. It was merely an inhabitant on a geographical location. Understand this, the continental African did not have a concept of border or nation state. None of that. So you got to understand the systemic moves when we started creating borders and saying these people are here and these people are there. There was no concept in African ontology of this type of modality. So when we talk about Africans that adopted the Jewish faith or the Judean faith, you might want to check in Palestine. It's going to be totally different than those that were Israelites in Israel. It's going to be totally different.
Brother Country.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Brother Country. Yeah, so
Thank
I want to ask you this question as well. Yeah, how long do you think the African race of people have been yoked under religion?
Say that last part again, brother.
How long have we been yoked under Abrahamic religions?
Well, as far back as the Persians in written history.
The
as far back
Persians?
as the Persians, and it probably goes farther than that.
Who are the Persians? Because you love naming names I'm not familiar with. Who are the Persians?
Well, the Persians would be the last, prior to Egypt, monolithic group of people that actually had armies that controlled trade and actually.
Were they African?
No.
Who were they?
No.
Who were they?
Well, they were on the coast of the Mediterranean Sea.
So the Europeans?
They would be Eurasian and European mixed.
Europeans.
More so Eurasian, which goes into your Asiatic group of people.
Right. So, and the Persians, like the ancestors of the Hebrews.
Sorry.
And the Persians, like the ancestors of the Hebrews.
Were they the youngsters of the Hebrews? No, they actually were. They were around the same circa, but the Hebrews were very, very.
Is it me or is Kansu? He sound kind of low.
Well, didn't the Persian rescue the Hebrews from Babylon?
No, well, they didn't rescue them. They overtook them. Palestine was very, very small. They overtook Palestine, and what the Palestinians did, they were very intelligent.
So the Europeans, yes.
Hold on a second. Hold on.
Who are the Palestinians today? Look, you said.
Hold up. Lay on to me.
If you look at the social activity, the social political activity of the Persians, They never destroyed whomever they were battling against. They would make them vassals. So they would be military ambassadors of the state and allowed to practice their religion or any custom, but they would fly the Persian banner. So the
Hey,
vacillated.
Kansu, are you away from your mic? Did you sound
No,
kind of low?
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you do sound kind of low, bro.
Yeah, because I'm actually on my cell phone now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why you're lower, brother.
Okay.
I mean, we can hear you, but it is a little low.
Hey, just turn it around and talk to the back of it, bro.
Oh, that's a good idea, man. Okay. All right. Is that better?
Yes, sir.
All right. Hey, thank you, man. Yeah, the Persians were more of a military-based group, but they did have an organized religion. Their center deity was Ahura Mazda. So they did have a organized form of their spiritual social institution. And when they overtook people, they didn't just eliminate them or to put them in slavery. They made them vassals and taxed them. And what they would do would lease their military to those people. So the Judeans gained ground with the Romans who needed to compete with the Persians. The Romans had already consolidated and standardized Greece. And so they had the libraries of Greece, which would tie them in through the Ptolemy period into Egypt and all the understanding of that region.
What time period are we talking about? Sorry.
I'm sorry?
What time period are we talking about? In history.
Roughly in history, we're talking about the early or mid 1500s or something like that. Somewhere around
1500 AD or BC?
BC. Somewhere in that area. Don't hold me to it. I don't know the exact time. And again, once again.
and they were Europeans, yeah? Europeans were like really civilized in the 1500s BC.
Well, I don't know what the term civilized would be for 1500 BC. We weren't there. See, this is the problem with that. When redacting history, we're going off redactors who had to redact. Because we're dealing with a universal knowledge system that was birthed by Herodotus. So we have to use the methodology of discovery befitting of even getting close to the primary of that cultural precept. That doesn't necessarily mean it's factual. That means that this is the cultural finding based on them because they were ruling at the time. Remember, every books of diction and text that were used for primary data was a Roman construct.
Yes, European. Everything is European.
Well, European.
I'm African.
European is a misnomer.
Romans what? Romans are Africans?
The reason why I just don't like using European, and this is personal, I'm not claiming a fact.
But all I'm saying is, we're dealing with people, Khonshu. You said, look into reality. We're dealing with people. Yeah, African people. Yeah, that's what we're dealing with. So when you say Romans, I'm looking at a European person. You say a Roman. Because they do exist today. They are called Italians. They are called Italians. They live today. They can trace their ancestors back to the Roman Caesar and all that crap. They live today. They in reality, I can see them physically. So you're telling me the Romans and the Persians existed in the 1500 BC?
What I'm telling you is, I'm not going to waste time arguing over petty fights.
No, but we're trying to see if the Abrahamic religions are good for Africa. So we're dealing with the origin.
Are you going to allow me to respond, or do you want to hear yourself talk? Because if you got the answer already,
no interrupting. Konsu, try and turn up your mic a bit so we can hear you properly. Victor, let my man go in, please. Yeah, and finish his point, and then you can speak. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm not trying to prove anything. This isn't Jeopardy. I don't have anything to prove. I'm going to tell you what history dictates to based on a cultural precept. When I use the term Roman, I am giving definition to the fact that Eurasia and Europe had no borders. Roman ideology seeped into European culture. This is why you have a duke, a duchess, a count, and a countess. In America, we have counties because of feudalism, which was a byproduct of Roman culture. when we have a book of laws here in America, we use a law book that is written in Roman Latin because we are influenced by a culture due to byproduct. This is industrialism, socialism, and political military complexes of a global nature. Why do you think the United States government and Britain operate geo-military political complexes? They're complex. They're not simple because feudalism in the Dark Ages, Stone Ages are over with. So I have to give credence based on historiological accounts. Of course, when you use the term European, that would be a misnomer because the particular Europeans that invaded Britain and also the Central Americas, particularly because a lot of Central Americans have migrated into the Britain area, the UK, came from the advancement of the Anglos, Saxons, Huns, Visigoths, and Goths. Those are specific people in the Punic Wars. Not discrediting the Minoans and the Mycenaeans that populated the Greek faction of people known as Phoenicians or purple people that are denoted biblically, but they're not denoted as Phoenicians historically. So when someone tries to apply Abrahamic faiths, it will not coincide with proper history. So that would be confusing to a continental African, is what I'm telling you. If I'm going to give a time date, it's going to be based on popular opinion, consensus. That's all. But I'm not going to pettifog with you. It's not going to change the outcome of the fact that these Abrahamic religions are not going to be useful constructs in the ontology of an African.
I got a question for the whole floor right now. Real quickly, jump off.
Hold on, brother. Listen, we've been going for a while. I got to take the opportunity here to big up the chat room who's been supporting it. We've had some technicals. Like, I really need to know, like, brother, who's the chosen? Who's on the panel? You haven't spoken yet. I see your picture smiling. Like, who's this brother, bro? Who's this brother? What, no one's speaking? Do I need to eject him from the panel? How did he get the link? How is he here? He's not speaking. His picture's here. We can't hear you, brother.
We got someone new on the panel, though.
Well, that's what I'm trying to hear his voice. Now, brother, we can't.
Can you hear? Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you now, brother.
All right, can you see me?
We can see your camera image coming up. That's it, finally. Because I've been looking at your picture for a while. We've all been commenting.
Yeah, that's
so
brother.
Just asked me, who's this brother? Is he gonna talk? Oh, what the hell? Yeah. So speak, brother. Introduce yourself to the people and give us your opinion on all of this conversation that's been going on, with the mind to wrapping this up, as in, are Abrahamic faiths good for black people? Give us your opinion. Shoot, brother, and tell us who you are, please, before you even begin that.
All right. First, I just want to say hotel and peace to everybody that's on the panel. I just like to say I appreciate the brother Solomon for inviting me on. So in reference to how I actually got invited to the chat, it was through the brother Solomon. I've been in contact with him somewhat. But to go straight into the question, are the Abrahamic religions good for black people? The obvious and ultimate answer has to be no. Okay. But the extended version of that would have to be, in my opinion, that is good enough until we develop something better. It should always be in our mind to develop something better, and I'll briefly explain why. Simply because when you're dealing with the Abrahamic religions, one of the first things that they bring to you with it is the concept that it's the divinely inspired word of God, and it came from the creator of the heavens and the earth and people in general. Once you start off with that concept, then individuals who read the book are going to take the information in the book over scientific data, archaeological information, and they'll even take that information and put themselves in harm's way for it because they believe that it's the divinely inspired word of God. So in essence, I don't believe it's good for anybody if you are believing that, but more specifically, it's not good for the black people or for Africans, people who originate on the African continent, because I'll say it like this. It was a situation in history, and I'll make this brief point, where in around the 1st century AD, when you had the Romans going to war with the Jews, right? At some point in that war, you had the Romans trying to siege a city that the Jews were holding in Jerusalem. Okay, now they are in a fight for their lives. And when it came to the Sabbath, these individuals trying to observe the Sabbath decided not to defend the city, not to defend the walls on the Sabbath, because the Sabbath was a day of rest and no work was supposed to be done. And the Romans were able to gain interest to the city and slaughter them all. Now they're going to get this concept from stories that are found within the Bible, which is the core of these Abrahamic religions, of a guy, Daniel, in the lion's den. And they give you this impression that if you just believe in God strong enough, and if you wait on God long enough, like the other brother said earlier, then he will come and save you from the situation that you are in. And no one is going to save you from the situation that you are in, because they would have already done it. And even when we come into the scientific field, when we learn things about the earth, when we learn things about human beings, and when we learn things about ourselves, something as simple as where did mankind come from? The theory of evolution. I subscribe to that. An individual is not going to go with any scientific information that contradicts the Bible because they believe that it came from God. And so that's going to put you back scientifically, educationally. You're going to raise your kids by this misinformation that was written centuries and centuries ago. And so, to not just to be too long-winded, the ultimate answer has to be no. Because if you subscribe to the Abrahamic religions, you are going to believe that those books, those little books, one book, came from the creator of the heavens and earth, and you are going to put more precedence on that information than any other information, and you are not going to advance too far in this world if you think that the ultimate information in the world is in the Bible, the Quran, or the Torah. It just ain't happening.
Yeah, this new.
Listen, Solomon, we're gonna go down the line. Everybody's gonna give their final statements on whether or not they believe Abrahamic faiths are good for Black people, and we're gonna wind this down and wrap it up because we've been going for a while. I know the people's been enjoying it back and forth in the chat. Yeah, but it is coming to a time I can only take so much religious conversation myself. You understand? So yeah, Solomon, give us your final thoughts, brother. After everything.
Well,
on this,
I would like to first give a shout out to all the people on the panel. It was a very interesting conversation, and shout out to Sci-Fi for looking good the whole time.
No doubt.
Yeah. That's one I guess we could all agree on, right? With all the disagreement that was
Sci-Fi looking good. Yeah, I agree on that shit.
But yeah, well, I personally think what Brother Ampu said, I think that at this point in time, we can use it as a tool of progress. I think that you can, and it's been historically proven that you can be of a particular religion and still practice your culture. I think that when you talk about what happened here in the Hells of North America, this was a very interesting dynamic because you was dealing with a whole culture of people being transported over here and being decultured. I think that had a lot to do with it. Now, when you look at other situations like the Mali Songhai Empire, it's a totally different situation. So I think that a lot of the arguments that was being made was predicated around what transpired, particularly of Africans of the diaspora. And that was a very unique situation, you know, as opposed to Islam going into West Africa. So I would say that, you know, the Abrahamic religions can be used as a tool. I mean, can be inculcated in cultures, and you can still be effective at, you know, promoting your culture and promoting your political views under those particular religions. That's my personal opinion.
All right. Sarah, before you go sleep on us.
Yes, he's gonna go to sleep on us.
Yeah, bro. I'm getting too old for this. I would say this. Black people have never needed an Abraham religion to build a society. The Black people have built societies irrespective of the spiritual systems that they hold, which shows that it is not the religion that taught you how to build a fully functioning society. You were able to build that irrespective of whichever religion you chose to follow. So people always say they want a solution. People say, okay, well, if we haven't got this, what do we have? Or what is the replacement? For me, that is still a mindset that we need to get out of, that we need something other than what we have. We can look around us and find, for me, just starting to think more logically and rationally will actually help us to get out of the situation that we're in. And what you will find is you will start connecting the dots the more you start to think more logically and more rationally. You don't need an actual system to take hold of, because that still shows weakness. If you're telling me, oh, I do need something to hold on to, I do need some kind of God's concept to hold on to, then it shows that you're a little bit weak. And like I said, for me, I don't really want to be building with weak individuals. I want people to say, you know what, I actually don't need something. I'm enough for myself, and we are enough for ourselves. And let's do what we need to do for ourselves.
No doubt, no doubt. Sister Sci-Fi, beautiful Sci-Fi. Talk to the people.
Go ahead, beautiful Sci-Fi.
A minute. Okay, I would like to say peace to the channel. I really enjoy this show. We do need more feminine energy on panels like this to kind of balance it out a little bit. A huge shout out to Kansu for putting your opinions out there and what your studies are. I really value it. Peace to everyone on the panel. I really enjoyed the conversation. Sorry for those who are listening, because there has been a lot of technical issues going on with Black Ice TV, internet going in and out, and the sound. So my sincerely apologies. Family, please go to In the Black Media. Solomon, if you can go ahead and type in the chat room so they can go ahead and subscribe to your page. Solomon does drop news that should be national regarding us as carbon or melanated people, but it's not making national news. He also does a lot of debates, which are very calm, respectful, not disrespectful in any ways, just to get the information out there to whatever your beliefs are. So he does, drop some knowledge. Sarah, I really appreciate you, because apparently he's been on a lot of shows and it's like 1 o'clock in the morning in the UK. So I really appreciate your effortness of being up this late just to make this show. The next person that's on the panel, I guess you are the Moor, but I can't see the other part of your name. Thank you for your participating, the Chosen. Thank you. It was like a breath of fresh air when you finally did get a chance to speak. So the chat room, they did respond possibly with you and whatever the statements that you have made. V, that's all I see as your avatar. I respect your opinion as well. Kansu was on a cell phone, so for those who did not hear him as much, it was because he was speaking from the earpiece from his cell phone. His apologies as well. He did drop off because he was running errands He was trying to get back on a panel, but now that we're ending the show, you may not see him. So if you get a chance, family, just rewind this show. It's a good build, and you may learn something. And that's all I have to say. Peace and Black Power.
God damn it. That's why I love her. Yeah. All right. Mr. Moore, can you hear us? Speak to us, brother.
Peace. Shout out to everybody on the panel for showing up for the conversation, because it shows that you care enough about people who look like you to have this conversation. I hope everybody catches my point about the fact that we don't have to agree on any one tradition. We just have to agree on the fact that our traditions bring us back to Africa and bring us onto the front lines of fighting for each other. And right off the top, I want to stipulate that it's a misnomer to try to apply one belief system to everybody and say we have to follow this, right? That's un-African, period. And that's a remnant from the colonialist mindset. And trying to argue over what came first does not matter. That's a colonialist concept. And with that, family, I just want to say peace and love to everybody. And whatever you practice, whatever you think, whatever you preach, make sure it brings you back home. Peace and love, fam.
All right. The Chosen, brother, I know you made the statement, but again, close out. What are your final thoughts, if you have any more to add on to your statement from before?
Thank you. What I'd like to add on is just the why I say it's good enough until we develop something different. I'm in Texas, okay, and I'm well aware of the fact that some of what we're calling these Abrahamic religions, the main one in my area is Christianity. Now, while I adamantly disagree with all of that, what I'm saying is the organizational standards that it already has. There's churches in multiple cities. These churches have leaders that meet each other on regular occasions, and they have the ability to draw our people in mass. So it's aspects of it that I don't think we can afford to lose right now, even if it's helping us to move politically. So that's why I'm saying I don't think we should just tear down the institution itself, but further develop it and take those aspects of the belief out, right? And change the origins of these beliefs, but keep the organizational standard, because organizations have helped our people get out of slavery, okay, progress since slavery, and organizations and teamwork and being able to work together is what's going to take us into the future. But we do need to develop something different that's purely of an African mindset and get totally away from the idea that those books came from God. And I appreciate y'all letting me speak. Thank you.
That's all, my brother. All right, someone I personally invited, Vic. I know you enjoyed yourself this evening.
Yeah, I did, man. Yeah, man.
That's all. Speak on it, brother. What's your final thoughts?
Well, the beginning of the whole show, it was about trying to find out if Abrahamic religions are any good for Africa and Africans in general. But what I witnessed today is just a bunch of confusion that's going on, and that's what you're gonna get when you bring that thing still. You know what I'm saying to you? I asked a question and no one seems to be like giving me a definitive answer. I was saying, how long has African as a race of people been yoked under religion, these three religions? I didn't get an answer. But for argument's sake, we would just say 2,000 years. Yeah, let's just say 2,000 years for argument's sake. Are you telling me Africans haven't managed to use the good bits out of this sort of doctrine to better themselves? And we've been oppressed for that long? Really? Like, so all this, you know, them diasporans, yeah, I'm not taking any, like, I'm being genuine here. Like Khonshu said, most of them are damaged. Yeah, they need repairing. Yeah, you can't be in a damaged position and think like you're gonna bring something that's gonna work for Africans who are also colonized. Yeah, they hold to this thing so dear, they don't even know. So you got two confused people trying to unite with each other. Nah, it ain't gonna happen. And it was foretold that this shit will go on. Confusion. The Christians might call it the rapture. It's physical. Khonshu said, we are spiritual people. We never dealt with Abrahamic concepts of any religion. I'm saying to you, we relate to nature, but look how far we've come away from nature. And if you do that, it's pure confusion. That's what you're going to get, because you don't know self. You don't know thyself. Thyself is the one you are. The God conscious embodied in this physical body. That's us. We live. Spirituality is not like a book you have to follow, read, you know, like law. Like, you know what I'm saying to you? The law is within us. We know the law. We were the originals. We were the custodians. We never did Abrahamic. You know what I'm saying to you? So if 2,000 years our people been under this yoke, and everything that they do, it might seems like it's getting okay, that we have mobilized, yeah, organized, and done things before. I mean, the Americans can attest to the Black Wall Street, but look what happened to that. That got blown to shreds. By who? Yeah, your enemy, the one that gave you those religion, because they know. With the African, we can only operate in the spirit, the true spirit, before anything else can work. And because this spirit has been misguided with these literal full pseudo history. And one thing I got to say to you, when you talk about historical thing, you've got a date. Give me a date. Because like I said before, I'm an amateur historian. So I know things by dates, events, people, and places. You got to give me the location and what happened. This chosen one said something about the Romans and the Hebrews had a fight. What year was that? See, there is history, like Khonshu said, and there is factual human history. A lot of people are operating with what? Pseudo Bible history, because everything leads back to the Bible. Phoenicians, their Bible literature. Hittites, it all leads back to the Hittites, Persian. It's all Bible literature. That is mythology. But you got a lot of people operating on that shit. Yeah, the Bible mythology history, which has been used in Western academia. A lot of people subscribe to that, because when you follow it through, it all leads back to the Bible. The Bible is myth. Yes? Yeah, you might say a bit of metaphysical, esoteric connotations that we can use. Hey, a shit stick covered with chocolate is still a shit. So you can't come on there and say, oh, we can use the good bits out of Abrahamic. No. That's a curse to the African. The natural African is a curse. Our ancestors, they build civilization and they were yoked under spiritualness, the oneness. It didn't deal with Abrahamic. That come later. Yes. And the Romans are not the progenitors. It was the Greeks. It was the Greeks and the founding fathers of European civilization. It was the Greeks. So history, when you bring history, bring dates. So I know precisely where you're talking from. Khonshu had a bright idea. He knew history, but his dates weren't adding up. Because all he was talking about was Europeans. Phoenicians are Europeans. They're all Europeans. That's a European ideology is given to us. Like he said himself, it's a construct that's been given to us. Yeah. And yeah, the Americans, the Africans in America, they can read. They're more intelligent than the Africans on the continent, but they bring in a narrative that's going to further confuse us. We look up to you guys. But if you're carrying on with this mythology, there's going to be a lot of confusion. But hey, it was said there will be confusion. But you have to know thyself as a true African spirit. Yeah, that's the only way you can survive this madness. But hey, if I say madness, I'm mad too, because I am the world. The world is me. But I'm here to observe. But I'm telling you the truth. History started when they made it so with the Greeks. The Greeks are the forefathers. So if you want to know history, follow the Greek timeline. The Greeks are the fathers of these Europeans. Follow them and you will find the truth. It will lead you. That's the only thing that will lead you back to your original spirituality. Because we've been yoked for 2,000 years. You can't just repair that overnight. There's going to be some shit going on. Africans believe in Abraham, believe in Jesus. They will fight to the end. They won't listen to your Moorish whatever science, your Kemetic science. They'll be like, what are you talking about? Jesus. We are more fucked up than the Americans. But the only thing is, we still know our identity. But we pretend. We know we came from somewhere. But we pretend because we want to, this illusion of inclusion type of syndrome. Yeah, we want to act up. Now you've got black people joining like European fraternities like the Moors, the Illuminatis, and all, thinking that what are you doing? What are you doing?
All right.
You know what I'm saying to you? So all I'm saying is we have to go back to our original. We have to divest from all forms of religion. And it's so simple. Just do self. Because you know the science, you speak about the science, but don't try and polish something that has been detrimental to our people for 2,000 years. Just be yourself. Know thyself. And to know thyself is to know the God consciousness that is within the I, Rastafari.
Well. Sorry, I had to just laugh at that one. Yeah, listen, people. Yeah, it's been an interesting evening. Yeah, it's been an interesting build. Big up to the chat room. Look out for me and Soul of Mine. We're going to be doing a few more of these panel shows on a regular basis. We won't be just talking about religious subject matters. We will be talking about social issues, relationship issues, all sorts of things. We're going to diversify the panel. We will try and have certain people back. I am looking to arrange the next debate with Sarah, possibly with Michael Edwards. Watch the space. We got to see. We got to discuss things and work stuff out. So we will see. His brother won some of it as well, but we're going to work that out. Thank you again to everyone that's tuned in. I want to say a special thank you to Sci-Fi, man, everybody, yeah, and being my baby love, yeah. Out here. I want to thank Vic coming on for the first time. Yeah, I want to thank the chosen one for coming on. We had a nice build the other day, and I thank Solomon again for his efforts. Since I want to sort out.
I just want to let the people know that I will be having an interview with the chosen one. He goes by the name of Ampu, and we will have to be we'll be having a discussion, I believe, on Tuesday, right? Chosen one.
No, we said Sunday, tomorrow.
Okay, Sunday, tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow. I got a lot of stuff going on, bro. Tomorrow we'll be having a discussion. So make sure you tune in. Let them know what time we will be going live, brother.
You're free to go, Sarah.
Come on, Rastafari.
You said 9 o'clock where you are. I believe that's Eastern.
Yes. So 9 p.m. Eastern time, we'll be going live with an interview with Ampu, and that'll be on Solar Vision ITBM too. So you get the time, come and check that out.
All right. Listen, people. Nice one. Peace. See you all soon. Later. God damn.
Sorry, I fell straight off. I was going to ask about the Michael Edwards debate.